Good evening and welcome to the Pac-12 Voice of College Football's USC Postgame Live. Well, the Trojans survived. What a game. My name is Tony Altwar. I'll be joined in just a little bit by Tim Prangley, who's on his way home from the USC game, so we're going to get some great updates about what it was like to be in the stadium, and we're going to be able to hear from you guys. So once again, as you guys know, our usual drill, this show is about you guys. We're here for you, so we want to hear what you guys think. So we're going to be putting the call-in link. It's actually already in the chat, and we'll keep posting it, and we want you guys to call in and tell us about what you think. Now, because of the game went over the daylight savings time, so we apologize. We're not actually an hour early, but the scheduling on the automated system sort of screwed up with daylight savings, so sorry about that. But we're glad to have you guys. There's a couple ways you can engage with us. So you can call in the show, which is our favorite, preferred. We also have live chat that we want to hear from you guys about what you thought in the live chat. You can also reach us by Twitter. So you'll see our Twitter handles are all on the screen right there. And you can just tweet at us. We'll get it and see it. Then the other way, you can always reach out if you want to have a question or something you want to immediately have the group discuss. You can send us help support the show by sending us a super chat, or you can support the show through PayPal or Venmo directly, especially if afterwards. And that really helps the voice of college football. So without further ado, let's get into it. It looks like, is that Tim? Are you live with us? It looks like Tim has just arrived. So as Tim arrives, we'll bring him in as soon as he's there. All right, Tim's just getting back from the game right now. Now, for those of you guys who watched, what an interesting game that was. I'll get into my opinions in just a little bit, but USC held off a resurgent Cal 41-35. USC had a commanding lead for most of the game. Let Cal get back in it. So what do you guys think? Call and tell us. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what you guys thought of the game. So I'm going to put the link in the chat right there. We'd love to have you dial in and fill us in on what you think. So Tim's going to be joining us. Our good friend, our favorite LBC Trojan, is actually at a wedding in Palm Springs tonight. So he unfortunately is not with us. He's being a good husband and good friend instead. So we want to hear what you guys had to think. In the meantime, while we wait for Tim to come through and you guys to chime in, let's walk through what happened in the Pac-12 today. So certainly USC held off Cal. As Austin Williams says, friend of the show, it was a lot harder than it needed to be. Yeah, it was. The defense certainly didn't pull off what we were hoping. Certainly down a number of players who still aren't back from Utah injuries. But it was not the type of showing that I think you need to have if you're going to win. If you're going to be in a position to win the conference, I mean, they've got to stop somebody. And of course, Cal jazzed up. This I thought was one of the better games Cal played. We've seen Cal look miserable. Cal lost to Colorado, but we've also seen Cal look pretty strong. We saw Cal almost beat Notre Dame, who just demolished Clemson. So Cal is a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team, and we definitely got, depending on your opinion, whether we got the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But they certainly played well. This was, of course, remember, Cal is USC's oldest rival. The name Trojans comes from losing a track meet to Cal. They are our oldest rival. We were the Fighting Methodists beforehand, for anybody who doesn't know. We lost a really close track meet, and they wrote that the Methodists fought like valiant Trojans in the LA Times, and we took the name instead. So certainly wish we could have played a little better. One of the things that really worries me, I'm sure for some of you guys, is that we tend not to put teams away. Then again, let's take a pause. Remember, this team was 4-8. 4-8. And right now we're 8-1 and still in the national title picture. That's wild. That's wild. So Lincoln Riley, we love you. Tim, I think I saw him just flash in just a sec. I think he's getting everything set. So as soon as he's back in, we'll get his take on the game. We'll hear what it was like live at the stadium. But once again, guys, call in. Tell us what you think. And while we wait, let's dive in. Let's take a look at what happened around the league, because I think some of you may have been paying attention to some of the big games and missed it. We on Friday night, what a wild shenanigan night in Husky Stadium with what was that? The atmospheric river coming through Seattle, and Washington, 12 seconds to go, hits a field goal to win. So bow down to Washington. Bum, bum, bum. Congrats to the Huskies. Congrats to Dubs. You guys looked great. And certainly makes a really, really more interesting game coming up, both for the Washington-Oregon game. They call it Hate Week. Their most hated rivals, and then Oregon in the Civil War, which will have big implications for USC. Next up, Oregon looked great. Oregon just smashed Colorado. What is this? Last year does not matter. Well, last year we were pretty terrible, and we still have a lot of those players. So last year kind of is amazing that we've gotten to where we are despite last year. Now, Oregon just demolished Colorado. Bo Nix looked like a Heisman winner. And I think Bo Nix made a pretty good case for a trip to New York. Just really pretty dazzling performance. Washington State just hosed Stanford. Remember, this is a Stanford team that beat Notre Dame in South Bend, and they just got murder stomped. Just absolutely murder stomped by Washington State. Now, I think some of that might be a little bit of karma because, as you guys know, friend of the show, Stanford Tree, remains suspended despite the campaigns to bring him back, and despite pointing out that actually they really didn't have the authority to suspend him. But he is there anyway. So free the tree, you guys. Anything you see in Stanford for online and Twitter, put up free the tree. Trojan John says, do you see why I was stressed over Cal? I'm always stressed over Cal. Cal is always too tough a game. Cal can't stand us. We can't stand them. This is a century-old rival, guys. This thing goes way back before Memorial Stadium and before the Coliseum. So we'll see. Moving on. Clemson and Notre Dame. So we had to go to bed, but friend of the show, Will ND, at the game today, giving us live updates throughout this game. What a showing it was. Clemson just got stopped by Notre Dame. So who would have thought that? Oh, is Tim back?
What's up, Tony?
We're going through the Pac-12 games, and then we want to hear what it was like in the stadium. Just real quick, we're almost done with this. Arizona got stomped by Utah. Not unexpected. Not the Arizona team that they looked like last week, I didn't think. But Utah looked really good as well. And then finally, I don't know if this one's gone final or not. It was just about to. UCLA holding off Arizona State in the desert. So, Tim, welcome back. Tell us, how was the game?
Well, the game that I watched was great. I left when we were up 20 points.
So you missed the mess at the end.
I missed all of the mess because I knew that Rick wasn't going to be here. So I tried to get back from the Coliseum to get to the show, assuming that we're not going to give up a quick touchdown, onside kick, and then another touchdown, and all of a sudden we're in a dogfight. So, yeah, it would have been my fault because we were talking about as we're leaving, all scenarios that the Cal could come back jokingly, and they literally almost came true.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is, I would have to say, has been. So if you want me to give the Coliseum crowd a grade for the whole year, because you've asked me this every time.
What is it, like a C today? It didn't look very.
It's just there's not a lot of energy in the stadium. I mean, they get it for third downs and fourth downs, but other than that, it's just really flat. And it's been that way, And I, quite frankly, I think that this team kind of does it to themselves. They just don't put teams away. They're kind of deflate people. People get pumped up and ready to go. Everyone's excited for the last touchdown. We went up 20. And then this team just does not know how to put teams away. And Sean Cody, on the way home, I heard him on the radio. He said this is becoming a thing for them. And he's absolutely right. It's become this thing that what the Trojans do is they just don't step on their throats. Do you know what I mean? They just don't go for that, to put the team out. And they allow teams. And although Cal is absolutely struggling, possibly, I'd say probably the third worst team in our conference, they've got D1 athletes. And if you allow them to hang around, like Sean Cody said about the MO of this team, if you let them hang around, they could beat you. And my God, they got to figure stuff out because, as you're probably going to talk about, our rivals, that rivalry game against Notre Dame and against UCLA is not going to be the We thought UCLA in the beginning of the year, but we learned quickly that UCLA had more than enough to beat us. And then now coming up the way UCLA is playing with Charbonnet, Bobo, and DTR, geez, those guys.
Although they did exactly the same thing at ASU that we have done the last 2 games as well. I mean, they just squeaked that one out by 6 points as well.
But we were at home. Well, no, actually, I think they go up. I think they pulled away. Yeah, I think they scored another touchdown. But
did they just score in the last like 3 minutes? I don't know, guys. I was on the air with you.
Yeah, we were at home for that game. They're on the road for that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not gonna rip it apart. The game I watched was pretty good. You know, we could nitpick it, but you know, Caleb had another solid performance, and although his numbers were great, the clunkiness of the offense, that's probably a topic we could talk about with the fans as well. Just seems like just for whatever reason, they're still doing that same thing I was talking about, where they're getting behind schedule. You know, these 3rd and longs, 3rd and 10s are happening again, and we're getting the bounce passes. So it was a bit frustrating, but overall, man, you know, too bad we're talking about all this. Let's switch it over to something positive. You know, what a thriller, right? With Michael Jackson III. I mean, talk about a coming out party. I think at one point, someone can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but
hold on real quick, just because I see just the little things in the chat, guys. There have been some issues in the chat tonight. A lot of people are really saucy in Mark's chat, and we just want you to know we're not going to deal with that in our chat. So if you get nasty to people or you get inappropriate, we will just absolutely time you out or block you, just hands down. I just want to make sure there's some Tim, you were spared some of this ugliness. There was some real nastiness, and so I just want to make sure that doesn't happen in our chat tonight. Anyway, sorry, Tim, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
What was I talking about? I forgot.
You were going about all the positive things. I
walked through the door and just slapped myself down and started after driving back from the Coliseum. I don't have any notes, obviously. Michael Jackson just really had a coming out party. I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but he started out as a receiver. I think they brought him over to secondary. I think he was playing in the secondary for a little bit to get some playing time. And then now he's kind of worked his way back, and, you know, he's made the best of a great situation with having Addison and Williams out. He really has become a viable go-to guy. And man, I don't want to think about where we'd be without him. Taj Washington had been that guy, but Taj dropped that really important 3rd down catch. I mean, there were so many little things in this game that were just, I'm going to go rewatch it because I didn't take any notes. When I go to the game with my dad, I'm just with my dad, and it's all about my dad. But I need to go back and watch this game because I remember there's a really crucial 3rd down drop by usually a reliable person, Taj Washington. That was huge. After the play, Caleb Williams didn't throw a fit, but he walked right off the field, jogged behind it, and sat right back on the bench, took his helmet off, and just sat there by himself because I think he knew how important that play was.
Yeah, that was a massive play. He had a couple of those huge plays that were really, really important in the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, Taj Washington has been that 3rd guy really consistently, and his play is probably the reason why Gary Bryant is redshirting and possibly most likely transferring to the season. And it was just disappointing to see. You know, obviously everybody goes to drop a ball once in a while, but there were so many other plays, and we could talk about it in more detail. But how many times our secondary? I didn't see it because I was just watching it live. But how many times our secondary had a chance to get an interception in this game, and they just couldn't wrap their hands around and make the play. You know, we were making those plays earlier in the year. Just seems like now that these balls are going to the ground instead of you know, a change of direction. So, just curious.
Yeah,
if they can get that mojo back.
They need to just be able to keep it up and keep up the mojo. Alex Wright, a friend of the show, says first time in nearly 2 months I had fun watching until the end. That makes one of us. We're happy for you though. He's a Cal alum, I think, and Cal fan. Tim, I'll tell you, I honestly thought Cal looked good. We talked. I mentioned Tim. I don't know. I think you heard. I said we've seen all season a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde Cal. I mean, there's a Cal that went to South Bend and should have beat Notre Dame, and then there's a Cal who just stunk it up in Colorado. And I thought that we got a really good one. I thought they looked good against us. Unfortunately, Jay Knott looked awesome.
Yeah,
Plummer looked like everything he was supposed to.
There's no excuse. This is why we talked about the beginning of the year. People need to relax. This playoff, you guys, we do not want to go to the playoffs and meet in the first round that Georgia team. You guys saw what they did that to a really good Tennessee team. We do not want to play that Georgia team in the first round of the playoffs, and we don't belong there. So we're at least a year away from even thinking about that kind of a move.
Yeah, I mean the defense needs another portal class and another class of incoming kids. How soon can we get Tackett Curtis in?
Yeah, it was nice to see.
An immediate impact.
Again, I didn't really. I'm really chomping the bit. As soon as we're done here, this is what I usually do: is I want to watch the game afterwards. Right now, when I go to the away games, you're live. I'm kind of up. I'm about the 40-yard line, but I'm up a little bit. The replays are terrible at the Coliseum. They have these huge, great screens, but they don't really play them. They do play them. They play them late, or it's a tight shot, so you really can't see what happened. So I really want to go back and watch the game because USC allowed. I don't ever, and it always sounds like I'm putting down the competition. Cal played lights out, and they were in this game. USC gave them the opportunities, but credit to Cal, when USC was dropping the ball, literally, they picked it up and they were able to capitalize on it. So great game by the Bears. But this game could not have been this close. If you'd have told me that we're going to hold Jaden Ott to less than 50 yards or 40, I don't know. I don't know what he ended up with. But he did not have a lot of yards. If you told me that we were to contain them, I would have been fine. I just didn't realize that they're let Plummer just torch them for over 400 yards. I mean, that's pretty bad.
We've given up 1,500 yards in the past 3 games.
I'm sure it's right. It's got to be close to that.
I think it is. I think we've given up about maybe 16.
I don't think anyone scored. I don't think that. I think it's 500 and a couple 400. So, but yeah, a lot of yards.
Yeah, and as Gixxer Squid, Gixxer, friend of the show, awesome guy, points out, special teams is catching up to us. That onside was just, but
that was a point of interest on someone else's show. I can't remember who it was. I mean, I'm sure it probably was because the only people I really watch religiously are Michael and Alicia. I think they brought up or someone else. Maybe I'm getting the credit. But anyway, that there is no dedicated special teams coach, and I'm just over the past couple of weeks and the beginning of the year. Fine, I'm not going to tell you what your staff could look like. You're still Lincoln Riley. I'm still all 100% on board. But then maybe spend a little more extra time maybe on special teams because there's been nothing special about special teams. The punting, 2 bad punts I can remember off the top of my head. Those returns where the guy just catches it and he just does like a 45. He's picking up 40 yards. It's like there's no one there. It's been pretty brutal to watch special teams this year all around. And when we play better teams, when we play a UCLA, or if we play or when we do play UCLA and Notre Dame, I can't remember the stat, but I think that's the 8th blocked punt by Notre Dame this year. 8?
I think so.
Is that right? 8 in 9 games. That's just insane to me.
And Tim, speaking of UCLA, I'm just hearing my brother's on the phone right now. Vegas has just set the over/under at USC UCLA at 249.
That's probably right. That's hard.
So 249 points is going to be the over/under for USC UCLA.
If Addison plays, I take the over.
Yeah, exactly. If Addison plays, take the over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they look. By the way, I often tell people that in a lot of ways, and we hate to admit this, USC and UCLA are twins in a lot of ways on a lot of things. And like watching these games on these 2 screens, I thought I was watching the same game. I hate to say that. I watched two bad teams keep like 2 good teams sweating.
That was not UCLA pretty. Game. Well, I mean, UCLA's defense, and I think I just was drinking the Kool-Aid, riding the wave, whatever you want to say. I think I was doing that for USC because this defense has been bad. And I didn't want to believe that it was this bad. And we did get away with a lot of turnovers early in the season that maybe made some of those games easier than they could have been. So it was a bit of a mirage, and people were saying it, and I'm wrong. I am wrong.
And Tim, by the way, did you hear the score? And guys, put it in the chat really quick. What was the final score of SMU Houston? It was more than an NBA game. was 77-63 or something. I'd have to look it up.
SMU won, right? But they covered.
Yeah, SMU. Yeah, SMU won.
Because I had SMU, so I want to make sure they covered. All right.
77-63. Alex says. I think that's what it was. Yeah, we'll see.
Wow.
You know, and guys, we bag on the defense, and the defense has struggles, but this was an appalling defense last year, and they've had injuries, and I mean they're holding together, and we knew this team would survive on the offense. We need the defense to limp along and find a way to make it work.
Well, we're freaking out though. So here's the thing. You know, momentum in a game and like an oh shit moment as well on the onside kick, right? We're after hours. I can say that.
Yeah. Go for it.
They scored 21
We're
points.
We're officially an adult channel on YouTube, so you can say that.
They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. It was the game was like gone. It was like, was it 30-14 or something like that? Mm. Like 30-14 going to the fourth quarter. That's why I left. We were up by 3 scores. That game should have been over in the fourth quarter, right? And when they did the onside, when they scored quickly, I didn't see the play. I was already gone. It was sounding Arbogast said it was like busted coverage, right? On the long 46-yard touchdown at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Tony, do you remember that play?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a busted coverage, and the guy scores on gets that quick score. Then they get an onside kick. Did it look like we were ready for? Did we have our hands team in there? Were we ready for the onside kick? I'm assuming we were.
I don't know because my entire cable froze at that moment.
Okay.
And then it resumed. My cable completely froze and then stupidly resumed like right afterwards, and I didn't even know what happened.
Yeah, it was just so you could hear just a murmur in the stadium, right? So we're walking. If you know the stadium, you get Coliseum at all, you guys. My dad and I are walking. We're going to the parking lot, the ones right by the on top, right by the museum, and we're the peristyle end. And we're walking, and all of a sudden we hear I'm not kidding you, the place went silent. Like the murmur in the whole crowd it's like this air was sucked out of the stadium. We were already outside walking to the car, and all of a sudden just got silent. And you hear Arbogast on my radio. It says that that he believes that they recovered the onside kick. And at that moment, I kind of looked at my dad. My dad's 75. It was cold. We were getting out of there. It was probably a little under 50.
There was a lot less like shirtless body paint than usual.
No, there was a ton of that, by the way. And
was there? Okay.
There's a lot of alcohol going on. It was homecoming, so there was a lot of skin. But they're gonna wake up tomorrow morning, in a worse place. But they had a lot of antifreeze in them. They were fine. But it was cold. I mean, and it's not. Don't go, oh wow, 50 degrees. But the wind is whipping around that stadium pretty good as well today. So we were getting out of there. 20-point win. We were cruising, and then I'm just white knuckling it driving home the whole way, thinking, is this going to be like that ASU game that the Hail Mary or something, just some crazy play at the end and Cal wins it by 1? I thought that was what's going to happen in this game. I
was a little afraid of that. But the thing about our defense is they have been, guys, and I know that with folks in the chat, some of you are freaking out about this, but they have been bend don't break. We've had some games that we've sweated on, but we are 8-1.
Yeah, I mean, I am trying to look at
for the first time since 2008.
When they switched to, like, it seemed like in the fourth quarter when they're up by 3 scores, when they switched to that 3 scores, they changed the offense. And when they did that, again, they surrendered 21 points in 1 quarter. The first 3 quarters, actually, the defense, did play that bend don't break, Tony. I mean, they were giving up yards, but like I stole from Ryan Abraham. They were empty calories. You get a bunch of yards, but unless you're getting points, kind of like Alabama. I bet you Alabama's kicking themselves for going down the field and kicking 3 field goals at the beginning of that game.
Yeah,
that's how you win games. You can let teams move the ball on you. You just don't let them get into the end zone. And that's really what USC did in the first 3 quarters of this game. And then all of a sudden they decide, we're not going to play any defense at all. And we see it every year. It's so crazy, especially when it's a close game and their team just needs a field goal and they're playing these soft zones. when they've been able to stop a team the whole game, and all of a sudden they go to the soft zone and let them walk right down the field on you. I mean, I guess there's a purpose for it.
I don't understand the soft zone because it makes no sense to me because it doesn't stop anyone.
No.
Like, I honestly, guys, I've noticed a lot in football in the last 2 years. I honestly feel like prevent defenses don't prevent anything.
I think the offenses are just too good now.
I don't know why we don't just stop it.
I'm sure Chris will scold me sometime, probably in Discord, telling me, why it's done. I get the reason why it's done, but it just seemed like they went from being able to move the ball on USC to just like crushing them, right? It just seemed like whatever the defense they switched to, their guys were wide open all of a sudden. I thought the idea of switching to that kind of a soft zone or too high zone is that you don't let guys get behind you and then you don't let guys get big plays. Well, I was listening on the radio, but it seemed like they were getting big plays. So,
they were getting huge plays. It was
disappointing.
It was disappointing, but we won.
And we did win. And on a night where we have Michael Jackson just going crazy. This guy emerged. I think he and Taj Washington both had over 100 yards receiving. And the ball was going around to a lot of people. One person I did see kind of absent in this game was Rice. He really just wasn't, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the drops from previous games, but he just didn't. I saw him on the sidelines quite a bit in this game. And I also noticed the tight ends, correct me if I'm wrong, but the tight ends kind of went to sleep in this game, right? The tight ends were getting some play, were actually involved a lot early on the past couple of weeks, but they've kind of gone quiet. I'd like to hear from the chat if I'm wrong on that, or
and as Alex points out, at least we're not Clemson.
Yeah,
they got Tim. I don't think you saw it. They got murder stomped.
I just kept looking at the score. I watched I was able to watch the block punt, and I went, "Oh, that's." I thought stupidly, "Oh, that's going to come back to haunt them." Little did I know that doesn't matter. That was like
who knew that wouldn't matter? Yeah, it's funny. I thought exactly the same thing. So he's actually in bed right now, exhausted, and I think probably floating above the bed on a cloud. But friend of the show, Will ND, was on the field after the game with his dad on the field after the game, celebrating the Irish just murder stomping Clemson.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's
awesome for him. He hasn't been to a game there in a long time.
I'm sorry for your loss, Jordan, but you were in the game with your dad. Otherwise, I would have the same feelings.
Yeah, that's right. Friend of the show, Jordan Bowman, who we also love, devout Clemson fan, who was taking it pretty well. I mean, although when you lose like that, there's really no other way to take it.
Foreman was in. Foreman was playing. He just, I agree with 66 Lucky Dude. Foreman did play, and I keep waiting, and I think we all do. He just has to be nicked up because he doesn't look like he has much of a push. I've seen some bull rushes by him. He's not the biggest guy, but he can get there. He can get at least pressure on the quarterback. And he's not the biggest guy, but the Cal offensive linemen aren't the biggest offensive linemen either. So I'm surprised that he wasn't more of a factor. But Tooley did Tooley's thing, right? And Peely had a really nice play where he stopped out in the hole. That was great. Just reached out and grabbed. He was space eating, and he's reached out and grabbed him, dragged him down for no gain. That was excellent. But that is interesting on Corey Foreman. It's a shame we don't get any information, anymore on injuries, so we don't know what really is going on with these guys.
No, we really don't. And they were having similar issues with Charbonnet at UCLA, the UCLA game. And interestingly, more complaints from folks. Hey guys, let me just tell you guys something, because I've seen a lot of complaints about this. One of the things that the Pac-12 has talked about, and we talk about as a big value add for the Pac-12 that is very, very valuable to the TV networks, is the fact that the Pac-12 has spent a lot of money to put remote technology in place so that the Pac-12 can broadcast games without broadcasters being there. ESPN does send their broadcasters the game, so USC's broadcasters were there. I guess the Fox people were not at the UCLA game. Like, guys, stop acting like Fox has shafted us. That's something the conference is really proud of. So I've seen a lot of arguing about that in chats tonight about folks with the UCLA game. But then we may still see that for the USC game next week. Like for the USC game next week, the announcers probably will not be there. And don't complain because we're proud of that.
If you're not at the game, you guys, you should be listening to Arbogast on the radio anyway. Just turn those clowns off and listen to Sean Cody and Pete Arbogast, and you're going to have a much better experience than if you listen to guys that don't even know the players on the team.
And just in case anyone's wondering, that's Sean Cody, the famous USC player, not the porn studio. Don't go look that up.
Did learn something new tonight, Tony?
Okay.
Learn something new.
Just being clear. We're just being clear because this is a family-friendly show.
Yeah, the two-time All-American Sean Cody,
who is he's awesome.
Which basically the biggest recruit. Well, the early recruit. He was going to Notre Dame, and Pete Carroll, and well, actually, it was Ed Ogeron was able to steal him away, and Pete Carroll. It was a big Notre Dame family, and that I don't know if Pete's 2003, 2004, 2005 kind of 2003, 2004 teams would have been the same without Sean Cody.
Yeah, and also I don't know if you guys don't get a chance, and we don't have anything to do with it, so it is nothing to do with us. But the USC pregame that they do with Jordan Moore and Max Brown and Sua Cravens and Sean Cody is just absolutely phenomenal. It's on YouTube, broadcast off the USC channel, and it's not the Boys College Football channel, the regular USC Athletics channel, and it's really good and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, Jordan Moore, Sua Cravens. And Max Brown's on there something. If you are not watching it, see, I'm usually with my dad.
You're at the game, so you're not watching it.
It's dad. Well, I mean, no. If I was like by myself and I wasn't with my dad, I would have my phone. I would watch that on YouTube for sure. But it's just you go to the game with your dad. I don't want my face on my phone, so I'm with him. But if you guys aren't watching that, and you're a sicko, like I think some of you guys, if you guys are on here at midnight watching our show, you guys are sickos. And you
are. You're all sickos. And it's a good sicko. It's a good sicko. Way. Sickos in the best way possible.
Yeah. And they're on 2 hours before the game, and they do a really great job. So you guys should check that out.
Hey, and speaking of sickos, I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, sicko Connor Johnson, who is an Oregon State Beaver fan. Your team looks great. You guys in Washington should both still be ranked.
So, yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah, that was a good game, and you guys have a good team, and you both deserve to be ranked. Alex says Cal fans are depraved by default. It's true. Actually, Alex, if you get a chance, remind me sometime. I've got a great book you should read about how Cal created the Pac-12. So email me or DM me or something sometime. I'll give you some really good stuff. It'll be like it's very like pro Cal, like back when Cal was like imperially awesome.
So we have to keep. So let's shift it back to the positive, right? So we had Michael Jackson emerge as a receiving target. Taj Washington has been a solid self, right? Except for that one drop, but I mean, drops happen. He still had 7 catches for 112 yards and 1 touchdown. Bynum had a couple nice plays. He had quietly. I didn't catch this during the game. I know he had more than about a handful, but Bynum had 7 catches for 68 yards, and a couple of those were huge first down pickups. That one where he settled down in the secondary in a little pocket in the zone and just caught that ball on his knees. I don't know, somewhere maybe the 15-yard line or whatever. That later ended up in that crucial touchdown. He had himself a great game. That's the transfer from Washington. And then Travis Dye had 2 catches. Talked about Rice earlier. He had 2. Kyle Ford with 1. Follow with 1, and Lake McCree with 1. I was a bit disappointed because there's been a lot of people talking and modern day people I know telling me about Rayleigh Brown and what a great receiver he is. He had an opportunity now for even for a wide receiver, it would have been a hell of a catch, and for a running back is a heck of an ask to look over your shoulder and make an over shoulder catch. But it seemed like he went all alligator arms on the sidelines there. I don't know if you guys caught that one or saw that play. Where if he just extends, it was right there. I mean, it was right in the bucket. He could have made that catch easily. And I think maybe, Tony, what did you think? Early on in that game, it seemed like they were kind of forcing the Rayleigh Brown issue. It's almost like we heard it in the pregame show, and a couple people actually picked them as their, I can't remember, maybe Jordan Moore. Someone in the pregame show talked about Rayleigh Brown. They thought that he would get into the game and make a big difference in this game. Well, he it seemed like they kind of trying to force him in some plays with a huge loss on one of the plays that they try to get him involved in. I don't know. What was your take on Ray Leak Brown in the game?
He showed some amazing promise.
He looks like he's just
couple breakout plays looked phenomenal.
And he looks like he's going to get that. I keep hoping he gets that. I called it actually in this game to my dad that he's going to break one of those. He's just on the kickoff returns. It looks like he's just ready to break one of those things. And if he gets through there, maybe one block, 2 blocks, he was gone. On one play, if the guy had made a good block, he might have been gone. So,
I don't want to beat a dead horse and say that maybe if we had a special teams coach, we'd be more likely to break some stuff. But maybe if we had a special teams coach, we'd be more likely to break some of that.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm not questioning the coaches because we are 8-1, Tim. Our god-awful, terrible team put together with the broken toys and the Island of Misfit Toys transfer portal is 8-1.
And we're back. The offensive line's back, I believe, healthy, if not relatively healthy, very close to being healthy.
Close. Close. We still have one when somebody's out. I forget who. But we're really close. I mean, guys, if any of you who are in the chat right now, and if we said at the beginning of the season, heck, if we said the end of last season or the beginning of this season, would you take 8-1? You would absolutely sacrifice one of your children for that. So don't pretend like, I see all you guys. I always knew this guy was no good. Blah, blah, blah. Guys, we are 8-1, and that is awesome. Now, it was a little shaky when we got there, but you know what? Let's remember too, we were a little shaky sometimes in 2004 and 2005 too, especially against Cal. So let's take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. What did we think? I mean, I think you said 9-3. I said 8-4. I can't remember. I don't want to speak for you.
I said 8-4, hoping for 9-3.
Yeah.
And we beat it.
Yeah, we're already there, right? And with Colorado coming up on a Friday night. But I'll tell you what, you guys, if we don't blow the doors off of Colorado, I think we need to stop talking about this team being a Rose Bowl team. So or a conference champion if we can't do that. So I think that we have one more game. I would be shocked if Addison or Gentry played, but we haven't brought up the Gentry factor either. No, I think that they were eating over the middle on us a lot. Can we
hold on Gentry? We got Alex right now, just called in.
If you want, or actually 1 second, Alex, let me finish that real quick. With the whole thing with Gentry, especially down the end of that game, they're having some success over the middle. I don't think they have that success if we have Gentry. I'm sure Alex will tell me that I'm wrong, but I really do believe that the intermediate passing game changes completely if he's in the middle there.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Tim. I think you're absolutely right on that. And let's bring our favorite Cal Bears. Oh, I just double clicked. Let's bring our favorite. Sorry about that, Alex. That was my fault. Alex, welcome on board.
Yeah. And just on SC for a second, they are as good as I thought they would be. I thought that before the season, they may be 8-4, but they're going to be a playoff contender. And where they are now, the tight loss in Salt Lake, I can't even really say that's like a big loss. If anything, SC is as good as, because I remember in 2019, I think SC went 8-5 that year, and so did we. But we had a few guys out, so we were playing man coverage. But I think I can't remember the name of the receiver. It was, I don't know. But you guys just came in, just blew our secondary just out of the stadium, and I realized SC can be 8-5, they can be 12-0, they can be 4-8, but they have guys who can just go in any game and just torch, any team out there. But this season, SC is as good as they're as advertised. I mean, there could be craziness where SC maybe gets a peek at maybe sneaking in, but SC is as good as I thought they were. So,
even healthy, USC is not ready. I think it's a big ask, and I'm worried about it becoming so. You're a Cal fan, right, Alex? Mm-hmm. So here's the narrative: USC squeaks into the playoffs and they get just destroyed by Georgia, which they would. The narrative is We told you, it doesn't matter if it's at Oklahoma or if it's at USC. Lincoln Riley can't win the big game. That's exactly what they would say. You could write that byline right now because that's what it's going to be. And I would rather see this team finish on a high note. I do want the Pac-12. I think if we get healthy and we could shore up that defense, because for the majority of the game, I do believe we were pulling away. We were in control the first 3 quarters. That last quarter got crazy.
Yeah.
It just got crazy. Were you surprised that you guys could have moved the ball better on the ground?
So here's the thing. So this skit, so now we've now lost 5 straight. And so first of all, I haven't been around lately because I actually had a knee injury. Otherwise I'd be tuning in more. But Cal has, like, we play up and down to who we're facing. Like, I get that. That kind of reflects a coaching staff that, I'm not going to really get into all that right now, but let's just say that it's not been good. Okay. And so the first so up, what was it? So when SC's up 20, I'm thinking, well, like, are we just going to cave in and, you have the spread, the cover, whatever. And then we're coming back and then the onside kick. I can't recall the last time a Wilcox team ever even did an onside kick and let alone recovered one. And so, and then to what you're saying, that's when things start to turn. And I'm like, okay, I haven't seen this from a Wilcox team. I can't recall ever. And we're running plays. And so that busted coverage was, we faked the screen and the guy was wide open. Like, I had not seen that by a Wilcox team ever. And then the final scoring drive, like the middle is just like, that's open all day long. And so everything on offense tonight, I have not seen, especially throwing the ball, like against Arizona, the last time we actually were scoring points this season, it was just all Jada not all day long. This is the first time where we're just like, let's just air it out and, forget the run game. Although Carlos Brooks is actually a better between the tackles runner than Ott, I would say, because he could just go in and grind it. But we were just deciding, let's just air this defense out, and we hired away with it. And I was amazed because because the great flaw with this team, our defense is okay, but if we get no help from the offense, it's, we're basically on skates. But to actually see all that production through the air with our offensive line as bad as it has been, because you see earlier in the game, like on the edges, our tackles, they were just getting straight up just like wrecked. I was like, my God, what is, how do we even have a chance here? And to see us just have all that success laying the game against, through the air. I know the defenses get a little tired, but that was amazing. And this is the first time again in 6 or so weeks where I'm actually looking forward to the next game, because we're still in a bad skid. I don't think we have to win out to get to a bowl, but for the first time, and again this season, I'm actually feeling okay even after a game like tonight. But they said during the broadcast, SC's given up like 1,100 plus yards the last 2 weeks, and I'm thinking, why are we not having success against a defense that's been chewed up like that? And then late in the game, we finally do, and the interception before the half, that was really the game. If we kind of keep it close going in the second half, maybe we have a shot at the end. But we kind of did. We did have, if we did get the stop, we could have gotten it back. But really, very first time in a while where I watched through the end, and it was entertaining no matter who you were, which team you were backing. But but again, SC is still, I'd say you guys are still good, and the better to have an offense that, and Caleb Williams, there were shots during the game. He's on the bench just completely relaxed. And that's a kind of talent where you don't need to coach a guy up. He just comes in, just takes everything in. Guy's amazing. He has supreme confidence, and you just tell him, go in there, do your thing, and he'll do it. Especially, again, the play that sealed the game. He's going to keep it and just bamboozled our defense, and that was it. So if you have that, defense ain't great, but the team is good, and maybe not, and just on the playoff, we know some of the and that's the SEC lately, it's just in the playoffs, and I know that they've let's see, last year was an all SEC playoff or championship game. This year, I think Tennessee still has a shot to get in, even with the loss today. But look, there's just kind of an echelon right now where if you go in, you may, if you there's just an up echelon there where SC may not be quite there, but SC is still good. And what's wrong with making, even if you get into playoff and get wrecked, at least, I'd say it's better to get in there and take your lumps and just hey, at least we are in, getting there, right? And I think SC is getting there, and so at least but man, tonight was fun. First time in a while I can say that.
Hey, and we've got a friend of the show, Connor Johnson, who actually has questions for Alex as well about Cal.
So,
hey guys, next week's opponent.
Connor, what did you think of the SC Cal game tonight?
Well, I watched the first half, and once it pulled away, I hopped on Mark's stream. I was just listening. Back-to-back caller, by the way, Christopher Foote and then George. I don't know if it gets better than that.
Depends on your definition of better, but go on.
Depends what you're looking for. It just depends what you're looking for.
Depends on what you're looking for. If you're worried about 1984, you're in the right place. But go on.
If you're looking for belt championships at weed dispensaries somewhere in Oregon, then yes, you would be in the right place.
By the way, on this channel, if you mention anything about that stupid belt championship, we will block you because we do have that power.
Sorry, go on. You're over here now.
Welcome. We're glad to have you.
We're
glad to have you.
Jake Plummer, this has got to be his best. I mean, in Musgrave's offense, it looked like it all worked tonight. What say you, Alex?
Shocked. Because this offense has not been, aside from Arizona, this offense has not done anything the last 6+ weeks. And I was looking at this, again, when SC took the lead, I'm because we were not running the ball, right? So when SC took the lead, I'm just looking at some of the past games we've had, Washington State. We had 30. Well, yeah, actually, yeah. When SC took the lead, our rushing total was 30 yards, and I'm just, you can't. We're on the road trying to be a top 10 team, and and that rushing total is just you're not gonna have a chance. So I'm looking at some of the past games we've had against Washington State, Oregon, and the rushing game was not there. And I'm just thinking, if we can't run it at all, not even again 30 yards, 50 yards, that's not going to get it done. So tonight, laying the game, we're just airing it out. And I think we finished with 60 yards rushing or something. So I think we may have this dimension now where we may just have to completely ditch the run game entirely and just see what we can do, because our receivers, we actually have some decent guys who can, I know maybe Anderson got injured late in the game, but Sturdivant was awesome. And I'm not sure if, so if we have that, then that just is we're just going to literally run bear raid, just air it out, maybe get, use the tight ends a little bit, but and maybe run again, Carlos Brooks, through the tackles, but that's pretty much it now, because we don't have, our ground game is not there. So that's pretty much just airing it out. Yeah.
I know why you're doing it, Connor, but remember, Jake Plummer played in the 90s at ASU, Jake the Snake. Let's give this kid credit. His name's Jack Plummer, because he went 35 of 49 for 406 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
My bad.
Inexplicable.
No. I get why I would probably do the same thing.
Guys, hold on. We got an emergency. We have co-host LBC Trojan in his tux live from the wedding.
About time you dressed up for
looking good.
Looking good. Hold on. We're putting LBC on full screen for this.
Hey.
By the way, Connor and Alex, we're going right back to that. But we didn't even think we were going to get to see LBC here. So we got to welcome the show. LBC, give us your quick take real quick.
Guys, I missed you.
I'll tell you what my quick take is. Okay, I just went to the most epic wedding freaking ever. Okay, this was off the hook, off the chain. 300 people. Imagine you're like a freshman at USC and you go to a DG party. This is what it was like. It was off the. I mean, oh my God, they must have spent $1.5 million on this wedding. Okay, and the only thing I had was my phone. I was getting updates. I was happy. I was frustrated. I was happy. I was frustrated. But I don't care. We won. You tell me what the heck happened, because I don't know what happened. I just saw score updates. That's all I had all night.
USC was in control of the game, Rick, for 3 quarters.
Yep.
They gave up. I didn't see it because I bailed. As soon as they lit the torch, my dad and I were like, we're out of here. You know, it's cold. My dad's 75. We're getting out of here. I guess there was a busted play. They get a touchdown, onside kick. They march down. They score another one. Now it's a 6-point game. For God's sake! Thank goodness we go and they brought it back. But they've done what they. I was telling Tony, Sean Cody said flat out. He said this is becoming a thing with these guys where they let teams hang around, and I think he nailed it.
Yeah, you know, that's part of it. Hey, it's still a win. But, you know, this is what's frustrating, because we've had this situation a couple times, gentlemen, where everything happened in the day in front of us and we know what we need to do. Can't do it. But that's okay. You know why? Because we're not a play team. I've been saying that all along. We all know that. But we won. What are we now? 8-1?
8-1. Amazing.
So our goal is the Pac-12 championship. If we can make a Rose Bowl, fantastic. But I wouldn't be surprised if we dropped in the polls. That's okay, because but hey, as long as we're not Clemson, how about that, boys? Who was the one who put all their chips in on Clemson? On Notre Dame.
It was you.
Yeah.
Right?
You believed.
You know what? Because Tuesday night, Jesus woke me up in the middle of the night before our Wednesday Pac-12 show on the Mark Rogers College Football Pac-12 show live show. All right. And he said, hey, don't forget about touchdown Jesus. He woke me up. Said, you know what? And you guys all thought I was fools, right? Right. Look at that. And God bless Will ND. Has Will ND been on the show yet?
No, so we were talking to him live from the game, but he actually went to bed because he's got to fly home tomorrow early.
God bless him, because you know what? Hey, who thought Notre Dame was going to win? Honestly.
No, who thought that Notre Dame had an offense? Apparently they found one.
Apparently they found one.
Well, great.
And we've also, by the way, LBC, we've also heard breaking news. The ACC has unconditionally surrendered to the armies of suctitude and will be forfeiting their ACC championship, which will just be played between Stanford and Tulane.
Yes, because let me tell you right now, ACC is done, right?
Yeah, they're done.
And if TCU loses, Big 12's done, because Okie State just got worked by Kansas today, and that was the backup plan, right?
Yeah, and Texas is going to work TCU next week.
Hey, as much as we sucked against Cal, I'm just basing on the score again. I didn't see the game. But how would you like to be Ohio State? Now I know why they only schedule 4 road games, is because Evanston, Illinois is just too tough for them.
It is. It's too windy. It's too windy.
You're favored by 38 points and you win by 14 in a struggle, in a pillow fight. Come on, Ohio State. Jeez,
yeah, Ohio State. I watched that game. Ohio State did not look like they could move the ball on the ground when they had to. Right, they couldn't throw it, but no one could throw it. You would think a team going against Northwestern, the talent level alone, that they should just road graded and ran those poor Northwestern scholars into the goddamn ground, but they couldn't do it.
Tony, you would love this wedding tonight. It was USC and my boy Michigan State. Okay.
Those are my people.
My boy Bobby, Michigan State. We're looking at our phones, and I saw him. I haven't seen Bobby in a long time. Actually, I bumped into him at the so he's a Michigan State guy, and he's married to a USC like socialite woman, just beautiful woman, and her son got married tonight. And so I said to Bobby, I go, dude, you guys freaking beat Illinois on the road. He was jacked. We were jacked. And I'm like, so much for that Big Ten West, right? Because the last place team in the Big Ten East beats the Big Ten West. I mean, so basically, I mean, we all know Ohio State's kind of a fraud. I mean, they got exposed today, but Michigan State just exposed Illinois. So basically, the Big Ten is Michigan and Ohio State. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's it, pretty much.
Those two. Okay. Illinois is out of the picture. So the teams that got left out of the playoff picture today are Illinois gone, Clemson's gone, Oklahoma State's gone. And now the beautiful thing is we're going to get to see what's going to go on in the SEC because nobody knows. But now we're going to hear that LSU is better than Alabama. Georgia, just beautiful Georgia. They just said, hey, you know what? You guys disrespected us, you knuckleheads in the college football playoff by saying Tennessee's number one, and they're coming into our house, and we just won a national championship over Alabama. And Kirby Smart just used that and worked those Volunteers. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, they got murder stomped.
Yeah.
Tennessee looked like a pretender, but I'll tell you what that said to me in all honesty. And tell me, you guys on the panel, what you thought.
I think I'm with you already.
It vindicated Oregon. Because Tennessee's a really good team, and Tennessee looked like trash against Georgia.
That's a great.
And as I'm watching the game, I'm thinking, hey guys, that Oregon was like, hey, me too. Welcome to our support group. It's Tuesday nights at the Knights of Columbus Hall.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tony, because wasn't like 2 or 3 weeks, it was probably 3 weeks ago, that Tennessee went into LSU and boat raced them. What was the score?
44-13.
Yeah, Tennessee humiliated LSU. Tennessee made LSU look like a trash heap joke.
There you go.
And Georgia, murder stomped Tennessee. Georgia, guys, I think Georgia, okay, you guys are going to yell at me for this. You know what Georgia reminds me a little bit of? Georgia reminds me a little bit of like 2005 USC, who had some crazy wild games, but was just exponentially better than most of the other teams they were playing. And they
had a much better defense than we have.
Yeah.
Much better defense.
They do. Sorry, they have a much better defense. But my point is, like, when we dwell on Georgia struggling, they let Kent State play around for a little while, and they looked pretty bad against Mizzou, but they won. That doesn't take away from the fact that we've known since day one Georgia was a great team, and I think that what this has sort of said is like, hey, Tennessee's a really good team, and they got destroyed by Georgia because Georgia's great. Oregon is a great team who also got destroyed by Georgia in week 1 because they're great. And I think that it kind of actually removes some of the stain that Oregon had.
Well, you want my take? I think there's one great team, and then there's a lot of very good teams. And that one great team is showing that they're the one great team, and the other teams are showing that they're damn good teams, but they aren't great.
They're vulnerable.
Everybody's vulnerable.
Exactly. I mean, Michigan was vulnerable for a half, right?
Yeah.
Against Rutgers, and then they poured it on.
And then they poured it on.
Well, very good team, right?
The second half was comical.
Crushed them.
Yeah, as Alex points out, they did crush them in the second half.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight touchdowns. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
They made the adjustment and they just crushed from there.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, I don't know if you guys have mentioned this at all, but I apologize if you have, but hey, let's give it up for the Stanford tree, right? He got dissed for saying
Stanford hates fun.
That's right. And guess what? Washington State believed it and kicked their ass. How about that?
They did. And the Stanford student section was chanting, Stanford hates fun.
There you go. Because I saw that score and I'm like, oh, go Wazoo. Because another couple,
karma's a bitch. That's why.
Another couple that was with us, they're Coug grads, and so they loved it. Like I was telling the story about the Stanford tree and all that, and the Cougs just kicked their butt tonight. So the Cougs are going to be another team. They're 5-4. They're going to get another win, and I think that's going to be 7 Pac-10 teams or Pac-12. I'm sorry, that are going to be bowl eligible once the Cougs get another win. How great is that?
And by the way, speaking of the Cougs, if you guys haven't seen I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who made Brian Kelly look like a fool today was Jake Dickert, because Jake Dickert has moves.
Oh,
And the video, the Twitter and YouTube video and TikTok videos of Jake Dickert breaking it down in the locker room are a sight to behold. Jake Dickert's got moves.
And the one thing you're absolutely
like
right.
Brian Kelly.
We talk about Washington State. When you look at them, look at the teams they've lost to. They lost to Oregon. They lost to USC. They lost to
Utah.
And then
Oregon State.
And Oregon State. Those are losses. And
those are good teams.
Like again, against USC, they gave USC all they could to handle for a big part of the game, and then they got pulled away. So they are a solid team. They gave the Utes all they could handle. So I'm happy. I think this year in the bowl things line up properly. I think that USC and the rest of the Pac-12 is going to represent our conference very well. It's not going to be the crap we've had in previous.
Tim, are we going to win our first bowl in 3 years?
What's that?
Are we going to win a bowl for the first time in 3 years?
Tell me who our opponent is, and then I'll answer that question.
Oh, no, not just us. I mean, the whole conference. Just
we will win. Yeah, I will go on a limb. I will go on a limb and say we will win a bowl game this year. Yes.
We might sweep.
I like that attitude, Connor. Connor calls it out. We might. By the way, LBC, you are looking to fly in the tux. You're making it work. I like it.
You like the man. Pop in the tie, Hey,
I like it.
Connor, dude. I was watching that game on Friday night.
Great game.
So yeah, it was a great game. But let me ask you, because you're invested in that game, obviously. What did you think of the Pac-12 refs in that game? Acceptable or unacceptable?
Unacceptable.
Okay.
But that's not. We had the worst crew. We had Mothershed.
You had Mothershed.
Yeah.
by the way,
So we got Mothershedded.
We had the crew, and I other than Mothershed, who's sort of a character, I don't like to dox refs because the refs actually are like really successful commercial real estate people and stuff like that. But we had the crew tonight that actually has worked college football playoff games, worked the LSU national championship game, worked the Pac-12 championship game. And do you notice like how the USC game tonight had no referee controversies at all?
That's great.
Not one. Not one meanonful anything.
I was
certainly
no
incompetence.
There was a pretty bad PI in the end zone. We only got one quick review of it on the large screen. But man, it looked like the dude just flopped. I think I texted you, Tony. I said, I've seen Vlade Divac in the 90s do better flops than that thing. The guy just fell over. There was like almost zero contact. The guy fell over and got the flag in the end zone.
Yeah, that one was maybe a little debatable, but I mean, there were no like egregious reffing errors.
Yeah,
like we see with Mothershed, or like we see with Mark. I forget his last name. The other guy that did the Utah game. Their crew are atrocious.
They were able to count to 11, which was good. That's a step up. That's something to
count to 11. Unlike Mothershed.
They realize they don't start the clock, 5 seconds. Oh, there was a guy. So you talked about the crowd. There was a guy that had a sign that said, hey, we looked, we're still missing our 5 seconds. That was pretty damn funny. That was one of the better signs I saw in the stadium.
Oh, what is that?
Sorry, that's my oven preheating.
Oh, sorry.
Late night snack.
Late night snack.
Back tonight?
Was who?
Gentry.
No.
Okay.
No, we missed him too. I mean, Alex, I got bad news for you. Plummer would not have looked like as much of a hero with Gentry in there.
Now, Gentry would have disrupted all those passing lanes that we saw, early on. There'd been a lot more. I think there'd been a lot more. He's guys a walking disruption. But we're also missing. We didn't have Addison or Mario Williams back as well. I'm sure that although Michael Williams did step up, Taj played great. Those guys, you can't fill those guys. Those guys are top notch. And Raylan Goforth was out again, Rick. So, two games in a row without your middle linebacker, your Mike, the quarterback of your defense, and we're gonna. It shouldn't be this far of a step back, but for 3 quarters we did great, and all of a sudden it's just like the wheels came off after that onside kick.
You know what? I'm not concerned. I mean, obviously, I didn't see the game. I just got updates, and then what you gentlemen just told me about who is missing. Hey, it's a win. It doesn't matter. We're 8-1. We go on to Colorado. I don't expect those guys to be back for Colorado because they're going to save them up for UCLA. And that's the game that matters. All right. That is going to be the epic game. And then we get Notre Dame. And you know what? I haven't been to church for so long, but I prayed and he answered my prayers 2 weeks in a row. I got to go to Vegas this week and put all my chips on the table because I am flying so freaking high right now. The Domers are 6-3. They're going to be ranked in the top 25. And we're going to go back to back, just like Carson Palmer did. Do you remember that? Remember Carson Palmer? And I feel it for Caleb Williams. He's a G. Good things are going to be happening. And dare I say it? I won't say it, but I feel good.
Don't jinx it. I'm thinking the same thing. I think I said like 3 weeks ago.
The path is easier.
I'm going James Brown. I feel good. I mean,
I really think that
I'm feeling good, baby.
I think they're going to he's going to continue to be able to put up. We were just talking about it. You know, Tony and I were joking about the fact that the overs we set at, what did you say, 300?
No, 200. No, Tim, that's ridiculous. The USC over under is going to be only at 284.
Because Caleb Williams is going to light up
300.
UCLA.
It'll only be
secondary.
284. That'll be the over under.
He's going to
To
light
make
up
the playoffs?
UCLA secondary. He's been lighting up. You know, he put up 411 yards last week. He had 360 tonight. He's going to crush Colorado. He's going to, by the end of the season, I called it about 3 weeks ago. He's going to put up some crazy numbers down the stretch here. And you know, I don't know about Notre Dame, but I know in those other games that he's going to put up some crazy numbers. And if Stroud and I'm sure the fact that you know, the games today, quarterbacks that were in the lead to win the Heisman Trophy, they got knocked back a little bit today. So we'll see.
Well, and guys, we have just been joined by the guru, Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire. Matt, welcome to USC Postgame Live. We survived.
We did, and I don't, you know, it's, you know, part of my job is following Twitter because, you know, it's part and parcel of the online content industry. You know, you have to do social media reactions. I mean, that's what my bosses at Gannett, USA Today, you know, expect of me in terms of, you know, a sliver of the larger platter of post-game coverage. You know, you have to have some social media reaction pieces. And like, there were a lot of fire Grinch tweets in the fourth quarter of this game. And of course, you know, it's an overreaction. We know that. But I think, you know, it's a salient point that at the midpoint of this season, preceding the Utah game, it was, you know, wow, Alex Grinch has done an amazing job. He has done far better with what he inherited than anyone expected. I mean, he did more with less. You know, of course, USC's defense won the Oregon State game, and I think you could say it won the Washington State game as well. So this defense went so far above and beyond the call in the first half of the season. Now, of course, you lose Eric Gentry, you lose Raylan Goforth, and you know, so you know that there's going to be some regression. You know it's going to be difficult, and yet. And a common theme from the USC fan base during this game, following all the reactions online, was we made Jack Plummer look like Aaron Rodgers. And you know, when
Aaron Rodgers never looked this good against SC. I'm just saying.
not true. 2004, that's for sure.
But at USC, he set a record for the most consecutive Aaron Rodgers, what was like 20 some odd in a row. So he looked pretty damn good against SC one year.
But but still, Palmer looked. I mean, how else do we? I don't know, but yeah, hitting 400 plus, that was mind blowing.
Which is what Cam Rising did. You know, Cam Rising threw for over 400 yards, and so one finds a few similarities here that USC and Grinch were so focused on stopping the run. I heard Tim Prangley earlier. You know, I was tuning in, trying to find a darn StreamYard link. So thank you, Tony, for providing that. So I could get
sorry.
No, thank you. You saved the day.
Shorthanded.
I heard Tim, you know, talk about, you know, that particular point with the USC defense, and so, you know, there is a real thing here about Grinch being so focused on stopping the run that he really didn't have a complete plan for stopping the pass. But beyond that, the thing that really concerns me the most about where this USC defense is, and I do think that Eric Gentry returning solves a lot of problems. And I did hear you guys talking about, the passing game over the middle, a lot of the slants. Yeah, that Eric Gentry takes a lot of that stuff away. So I think that is a salient point. But here's the big thing. And this has also been mentioned as well, and under the larger umbrella, the larger theme of letting teams hang around. Like, instead of putting teams away, they creep back into the game. Got up by 15 over Arizona. The lead was knocked down to 2 points. So just when it seems that USC is beginning to create a cushion, there's a little bit of a letdown. All right, so that is kind of a pattern. But even more than that, the Arizona game should have been like the wake-up call, right? I mean, coming off, Utah played great. Cam Rising, Dalton Kincaid, they played great. And, because Utah is the defending Pac-12 champion, you assign Utah a certain degree of respect that you don't assign to Arizona. And that's not being mean to Arizona. It's just Utah has achieved something. Utah's paid its dues. Utah's climbed the mountain. Arizona's not in that same place. So in terms of getting through that Arizona game, like, that felt like, okay, got a bad game out of the way, survived. Now we should be better. And that didn't happen. So, like, that is really where I'm at in terms of being concerned about this defense, is that it marks a trend of continued erosion instead of nipping some things in the bud. Having a bad game against a great Utah offense, or at least a Utah offense that played great, that's one thing. And then, you have the Gentry and Goforth injuries against Arizona, and you're trying to adjust to that, and it's all very new. Okay, can kind of roll with that as well, especially since it was a road game. But here, we had a Cal insider on our weekly USC show with Mark Rogers, Jake Curtis. I mean, he and Jeff Ferrata, like, they know more about Cal football than anybody else on the planet. And Jake was very clear in saying on our Monday show, Cal's offensive line is atrocious. And so, like, this should have been a matchup that USC could have feasted on. And so to completely lose the plot in the fourth quarter, such that USC had to recover an onside kick and had to convert a 3rd and 5 to finally close the door in the final 2 minutes at home, like, that's a new level of difficulty. That is problematic on a larger scale than anything we've seen this season. Let's keep in mind that the Arizona game, Arizona got within 8 in the final two minutes after USC was up 16. I mean, USC actually had a little bit more of a cushion late in that game. Here, USC doesn't convert the 3rd and 5, and it's only 6 because Cal converted that 2-point play. You're thinking, oh, if we don't convert this 3rd and 5, Cal gets the ball with a chance to win at USC after being down 20 points entering the fourth quarter. So this is a greater degree of erosion. This is a greater degree of slippage than what we saw against Arizona. And just the fact that you're stacking together 2 straight poor performances, and that you didn't really see over the course of 60 minutes. I mean, you had some good moments, like the Kalen Bullock interception, Tuli Tuipulotu doing his thing, a few other sacks from other members of the defensive line. But it's really you're judged by 60 minutes, right? And so over the course of 60 minutes, what happened against Arizona really did not get fixed. So that really goes to Alex Grinch, really for the first time all year, not being able to take a bad game, or at least a mediocre game, and respond the next week. Fresno State was nothing special. Then came the Oregon State game, marked improvement. The Arizona State game was a ho-hum defensive performance, all things considered, and it was a better second half. But, the whole body of work left a lot to be desired. Then he comes back with the masterclass against Washington State, shutting out the Cougars in the second half. So in previous instances this season, when USC's defense was subpar, Grinch came back with something strong. And so really for the first time all year, you're seeing a series of bad performances without a true improvement, or at least if not improvement, the continuation of erosion. And you're not seeing kind of a leveling out in terms of minimizing the bad patches, minimizing the lulls. And I just wonder if players are mentally fatigued and the coaching that they're receiving, well, it's just not sinking through. Maybe it's just human nature thinking, we got this against Cal. You know, we're a 21-point favorite. We're up by 20 entering the fourth quarter. Okay, human nature is part of it with young athletes. I mean, I get it. But like the screws are tightening now, and we all just saw UCLA put up 50 against Arizona State. And I heard Tony talking about, the over-under being 249, not too far from the truth. So Alex Grinch is coming up against a moment of truth. And it's not so much that USC might not beat UCLA, though that would obviously be a gut punch. But like if USC, which gave up 62 to UCLA last year under Dante Williams, like if UCLA puts another 60 burger on USC, that is going to undo a lot of the goodwill that Alex Grinch has built with this defense, through the first half of the season. Well, and this Cal game offered like a hint of that erosion of goodwill. There is something that really needs to be built back, and Alex Grinch is running out of time in which to do that.
And also, Matt, Gixer Squid, friend of the show, has a good question. He wants to know, are there any special teams coaches currently in the portal? We can send a jet.
That's a really interesting question, because like you only get 10 assistant spots, for in terms of on the field assistant coaches. And so, how do you want to allocate your resources in terms of, obviously your recruiters and how much stock you put into those, but also how you're teaching the various positions. I'm agnostic on this question. Like I'm not going to say, you have to have a special teams coach, but you do need to think very long and hard. Lincoln Riley needs to think long and hard about how he allocates his resources and how he looks at that 10th assistant coaching position. I think a question also worth asking is, should Dante Williams be retained heading into next year? I mean, I know that, his recruiting value and what he did to keep the program together when Clay Helton got fired, like, USC fans appreciated what he did. But do you need someone who can coach technique, and do you need someone who can tend to the details of coaching a little bit more than he can? Again, I'm not going to render a verdict there, but I think that's where.
I think we know the verdict on that.
Matt,
take a good long hard.
Does he real quick? Does he coach the DBs?
Yes.
Well, Oregon State has 2 right now, and 2 secondary coaches. One coaches the corners, one coaches the safeties. So I wouldn't be surprised. Blue Adams has a career in the NFL from the Miami area, recruits Florida really well. And then our other guy came over from Colorado last year. So if, I hope they don't poach him, but I could see that maybe happening.
Well, the secondary has really been regressing. I mean, Sierra Wright, who had been pretty solid earlier, in the middle of the season, he gave up a huge play. You're seeing more guys getting lost. I mean, not Mekhi Blackman, but the other members of the secondary, they're getting lost. And so again, it's part of a trend of regression, and it's something that Alex Grinch has to put a halt to.
Well, and guys, while we're doing, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim. And then go ahead. And I want to say,
as far as the secondary and regression, etc., you brought up the point that you feel that Grinch is making an emphasis on stopping the run, and so putting those extra guys in the box or trying to stop the run, they're putting those guys on islands, and that was a double move. And one thing about I can't see the reviews very well being in the stadium, but I could see there was no help over the top. And so he puts a lot of pressure on these corners to make plays one-on-one. And, for the most part, they do a good job, but the best corners in the country, they're going to get burned, when they have no help over the top. So that might be a concern.
That is true. I would make just a very quick point on this, in that, Arizona's receivers are elite. Singer, Cowing, McMillan, those guys really rock. Those guys pop. Cal's not supposed to have the same degree of talent at the wide receiver position, and yet still lit him up. So again, another reason for concern for USC.
And guys, hey, while we're there, RTL Mooly Main has been waiting a while, and so we're having a good kind of fun group chat. So I figured I would just add him as well to join us here.
Really quickly, Matt. Actually, he said he was listening to you in the chat, so he must be a fan. We had 66 here. Questions for me, but I'm going to throw it to you. He's talking about when we get Damani has another year in him and is healthy. Zion Branch, I don't know. Is back and healthy. Corey Foreman, maybe one where you're getting fully healthy back. He's asking about because I said that we're not ready defensively, right, to play the big boys. I guess his question is to you: is are we close? Are we a year away? Do you think you can pull together in 1 year?
Well, I think in terms of the roster as presently constructed, and even with the reinforcements that are coming in from the next recruiting class, I don't think you want to rely on your incoming freshmen to be like your dependable lockdown performers on defense. I think that and Lincoln Riley, this is where USC is so far ahead of the curve with Lincoln Riley, because Lincoln Riley understands the necessity. Like, this is not negotiable. It's not a luxury. Using the transfer portal is a necessity in terms of replenishing and restocking your roster. So I expect Lincoln Riley to be very aggressive and, moreover, successful in getting lots of defensive portal pieces.
He talked about that in his interview this week, about how the portal was going to continue to be important.
Yes.
Very, very important to us for this year too.
Yeah. And it brings up the point, Tony, that, people might think that, he had to replace the Clay Helton leftovers, and he had to, engineer a mass exodus of the players that he didn't want to retain. And he had to then, of course, bring in a large influx of transfers. And that was just a year one thing. No, let's be very clear in terms of informing our audience. That is not just a year one thing. Lincoln Riley's use of the portal. It's going to be a consistent thing, and it's necessary. I mean, we look at, for a moment, just briefly deviate from USC. Look at all the bad quarterback situations across the country. A lot of them, the Big Ten West. I know that Rick was talking about the Big Ten West earlier. Imagine what a good transfer portal quarterback would have done for them. Also, look at our friends at Oregon State. If they had an elite quarterback to go with the other positions on the roster, imagine what going into the portal and landing someone special could have done for those various programs. So for USC, it's obviously not the quarterback, it's the defense. It's getting lots of bodies. And I do think that Lincoln Riley is going to hit the portal very hard, trying to get lots of reinforcements on defense. So anyway, Tim and 66, lucky dude, it's not just the 5-star recruits getting them healthy. It's an important component, but I don't think anyone should think like if we just do that, it's enough. Definitely not. I think we should be pretty clear on that.
And I like what you're saying, because also, so we're looking at a 10-win season. I think we all be comfortable saying we're going to win 10 games this year. With 9 for sure, 10 comfortably, right? Last season, off season, it was an unproven factor. You had Riley Coder, how's it going to work out, etc. If we come off a season where, and let's just say even better, we win a major bowl, right? That kind of momentum is a kind of momentum where we will be able to pull. And not just our issue with our offensive linemen. We develop good linemen. Like, we've had some luck. It just takes 3-4 years to do it. Look at Voorhees. He's an All-American. He's probably working his way into a first-round draft pick.
First-round pick, you bet.
So guys like him, they take a while, but we don't have time to always wait 3-4. He's a redshirt senior, I think. So we don't have 4 or 5 years for these guys. But if we keep working that portal to get guys like Haskins, right? They could fill in a left tackle for us. And I think the quality, I'm not disparaging any people we receive. We got some great players, but the quality is only going to go up higher and higher. Think Alabama and what Alabama's, we need you. We're going to bring you in. That's just going to get better as we go.
Completely. Yes. I mean, and with USC having a really good season that has exceeded most people's and most pundits' expectations. I mean, USC is going to get a positive bounce from this season, and play, more and more players at a higher and higher level of talent are going to want to come here from fractured situations, such as like the obvious big transfer portal source for USC most likely is going to be Texas A&M, right? Because people are going to want to abandon Jimbo Fisher's sinking ship. A&M is going to be 3-6.
Miami,
maybe Miami, but I think Miami is deep pocketed in a way that I mean, not that Texas A&M isn't, but I think that Cristobal hasn't squandered goodwill the way Jimbo has, because Jimbo's been there for several years. But you know, like those are definitely some places. The thing I was about to mention with Texas A&M is that A&M's 3-6, and A&M still has to play LSU. So you think that game's probably a loss. So A&M's going to miss a bowl. And what's significant about that is
it would be very SEC for like way overrated LSU to lose to way messy A&M.
A&M is so bad right now. A&M.
That would be a very SEC thing.
No,
it would.
No,
For a very overrated LSU team who got boat raced by Tennessee and who lost to Florida State in their hometown to lose to A&M. That's a very SEC thing to happen.
It is, but let's just assume that for a moment that LSU does beat A&M, or at least just that A&M loses a 7th game. So the significance there is that A&M's freshmen, that #1 ranked recruiting class that Jimbo brought in, they don't get those 15 bowl practices in December. So like that is a gateway toward ushering them into the transfer portal more quickly. So like not only is A&M a fractured situation, but it's a fractured situation where you're not even going to have a bowl team with bowl practices to occupy young players in December. So again, that just obviously stands out as a place where Lincoln Riley can do a ton of damage in the coming transfer portal offseason.
I like that.
To Dan the Man, I just commented, yeah, he was like, oh, they get cash in their rooms. No, now I think it's just directly deposited to the high net worth advisors. They probably use Goldman. Because I'm sure Mrs. Johnson has them all set up with Goldman because she's amazing. Hey, we got RTR Mooley Maine. Are you there? Oh,
we're getting crowded, Tony.
All right, we're getting a little crowded. Let me move RTR. RTR, message me when you get back. Let me move you out. Connor, anything else on the Beavs? You had a question for Matt, actually, I think. Did you have a question for Matt?
Thoughts on just SoCal quarterbacks. Does it bother y'all to see Daniels and Young go? I mean, obviously you have Williams now, so maybe not as much, but is Jaden Daniels a good quarterback? What?
You know what? Brian Kelly can coach. You know, this just in. I mean, you know, and I know that Notre Dame fans were loving life when Kelly lost to Florida State and got crushed by Tennessee. But, you know, after that Tennessee game, I mean, LSU and Jaden Daniels and Brian Kelly, they put their heads down. They got back to work. They didn't allow their season to unravel. And, you know, Brian Kelly, I mean, he took Notre Dame to a BCS national championship game, to a couple of college football playoffs. He also narrowly missed the playoff in 2015 with that late loss to Stanford. You know, almost got in that year as well. Like, he's really good. Like he knows how to coach, and so and he has a huge recruiting class coming in at LSU. So I mean, he has very quickly answered the question of, you know, can he compete against Saban? Can he compete against the other big boys in the SEC? Like it has not taken him very long. And so You know, he has brought Jaden Daniels along. I mean, like, you can tell how different it is with Jaden Daniels compared to the early part of the season. And I will admit to misjudging Kelly in terms of how he's handled this season, because I thought, okay, he had an off season to work with Jaden Daniels. And so when it didn't happen in the first few weeks of the season, I came down hard on Kelly. I thought, that Jaden Daniels just doesn't seem to be ready to turn the corner, but he just seemed he needed, it turns out he needed time in terms of live game reps. Like, the off season is great for, presenting your scheme, presenting your playbook, but there's nothing quite like live bullets on Saturdays. And so, in retrospect, Kelly just needed several weeks of live games to really convey and communicate the principles that Jaden Daniels needed to hear. And it seems those principles have really begun to sink in. I mean, you're seeing, and the difference in Jaden Daniels compared to what we saw at Arizona State, the decisions are coming so much more fluidly, right? Like, I mean, I watched a good chunk of that game before the USC game started, and just the crispness, the flow of Jaden Daniels' decisions against Alabama were much more fluid, much more rapid. He has a much more refined understanding of what to do and those decisions, which you have to make very quickly. You have to have like a pre-established understanding of what to expect when the defense has a certain alignment. He was so slow to make those decisions under Herm at Arizona State, and he was slow to make those decisions in the first month or so of this season. But now you're seeing that thought process. Now you're seeing that football IQ emerge, and that's Brian Kelly coaching him up. That is Brian Kelly, and also Mike Denbrock, who also deserves a lot of credit, the offensive coordinator. They have coached up Jaden Daniels and have clearly made him a better player. I mean, this is the difference that coaching makes, because watching Jaden Daniels at Arizona State, you could see that he had a ton of athleticism. You could see like the raw stuff, the raw material of someone who had a chance to be great, but you knew he wasn't being coached up well by Herm and his sinking ship in the desert. Brian Kelly, he knows what the heck he's doing, and he's really proving it on a nationwide scale this year.
So who, him or Dart, who's going to make the SEC championship? Another SoCal quarterback.
Well,
LSU.
LSU has the head-to-head win over Ole Miss. So, like, LSU has the inside track now, given that it has the head-to-heads over both Alabama and Ole Miss. Now, as Tony said, maybe LSU is going to step on the rake, but
it would be a very LSU thing to do.
Inside line, and Arkansas just lost to Liberty.
Did they lose? Wow.
And the Hogs. And KJ Jefferson doesn't look 100% healthy. Like, that's the biggest thing. So when LSU plays Arkansas, that might be really what decides it. Not so much the schemes, but just KJ Jefferson is not 100% physically.
What is with the Arkansas scheduling, by the way? They played BYU midseason. They played Liberty midseason. What are they going to do? Wrap up with the KKK and then play the Taliban in Nuremberg to end the season?
So stupid. Hey,
what kind of schedule is this?
And they don't have a perfect record against those teams either. So
I know. And then they're going to be like, we're going to talk to the Chinese about handling the Uyghurs, so we know how to handle our away visitors. Like, Arkansas, fix your scheduling. Get some real teams in there. Okay, sorry. Off my soapbox.
Y'all have played Oregon State and Cal now. We play Cal next week. Jake Plummer, I did it again. Jack Plummer beat us last year when he was the quarterback at Purdue. Should the Beavers be worried?
The Beavers should be worried because they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, who is the Oregon State quarterback now? I don't know who it is.
Ben Gulbranson.
It's probably going to be Chance. I think we're going back to Chance, honestly.
No one's going to get it this week? Okay. But even healthy, then, USC fans, were happy to scoop up those 4 interceptions.
Well, here's the thing that I told.
And I just, I was mentioning this earlier about the transfer portal, If Oregon State had been able to get, a rock star transfer quarterback, my goodness, the Beavers would be right there at the top of the Pac-12 because they have the other pieces Like they have the offensive line, they have the running game, they have the defense. Trent Bray has been a great defensive coordinator this year. When you hold Michael Penix in Washington to 24 points in Seattle, you're doing something right. You're doing something very right. Just don't have the quarterback. I mean, Oregon State is the Iowa of the Pac-12. All these great roster pieces, except for the most important position on the field.
And I'll bring
We
it up
have an
again.
incoming-
I bet you JT Daniels right now is kicking himself every morning because and I'm really glad he did not go to the quarterback because that's the piece that you were missing.
Yep.
Smith would have turned him into a first-round draft pick.
I don't doubt that. Well, I don't know about that, but I don't doubt that Smith would turn him into a machine. I know that for a fact.
Oregon State wouldn't have more than 2 losses, and it might have only 1.
Well, we've beaten all the teams we're supposed to beat. I would have said if Washington was at home, we were supposed to win that one. But like Cal, ASU, we're supposed to win. And Goldbranson can win those games because he's a game manager. But for the upside, we need Nolan back to have a couple good weeks under his belt so we can play spoilers against Oregon if they can survive Washington and Utah. On the quarterback front, though, we do have an incoming 4-star quarterback from Downey High School. For you SoCal guys, Downey's pretty good, I think. Aiden Childs, he kind of has a Bo Nix type frame. And he was a 3-star, but he got his 4th star from 247 Sports about midway through the year this year. His only loss is to the Tennessee incoming quarterback. I forgot where he plays, but so we're recruiting the positions of need and we have a 4-star defensive lineman coming in from Las Vegas, which are the 2 most important positions. So I'm not upset with, Smith is going to probably sit down with Lindgren and change some things this week because he's given the keys fully to Lindgren. He only had to do it once earlier in the season after the Utah game. He sat down with him. He even said in the press conference, like, yeah, we're going to have to change some things. So when he did that, he put Fenwick 3rd in the depth chart. So I have no doubt we'll fix it and hopefully be ranked again for the Oregon game. But Alex, we'll see you next week. I'm going to head out. I got to cook. My oven preheated, remember? See you guys.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, see you, Connor. Go Beavs.
Back to Pack.
Yeah. I didn't want to break Connor's heart and tell him that Downey is not a powerhouse of football. I think their claim to fame was having Imaleva, I think, as the quarterback where he transferred. I'm not even sure, but I'm sure he's a good receiver, Connor. Sorry. Gigster Squid. Thank you, Gigster Squid. How's Notre Dame's win today help or impact USC's closing out the season? I think this is the real news of the day for USC fans. No, because we don't want to go to the playoffs. I know Matt's going to push back on it. I'm sure Rick would push back on it. I don't want that ass kicking. I don't want it.
No, but I want us to be screwed out of the playoffs so we can be really outraged about how we got screwed out of the playoffs and then not have to play Georgia. That's what I want. I want us to spend the whole offseason being like, if we'd have made the playoffs, we would have beaten Georgia. Sure. No, we would have gotten our asses whooped.
LSU's hopping us. We'll be lucky if possibly, who knows, maybe UCLA hops us.
Yeah, we might drop. But here's the big thing is what I think that really does, in all honesty, in my opinion, is it legitimizes that Notre Dame game, especially if that Notre Dame game is close or ugly or maybe even, God forbid, a loss. What this game does, I think, really is it re-legitimizes Notre Dame as a team who is not cannon fodder for Marshall and Stanford. Because the story of Notre Dame, Notre Dame beat North Carolina. And by the way, Notre Dame is the ACC champions. They've beaten North Carolina and Clemson. So I guess, like I said before, guys, I was only half joking when I said Stanford is the AAC champion. But they really kind of are. But Notre Dame beat Carolina. They beat Clemson. And it makes Notre Dame a legitimate team. So when we play them with the whole country watching in prime time on ABC, the game matters. And I'm kind of glad for that because based on what I'm seeing of our defense, I don't think Drew Pine is bad, but I don't think we run him off the field.
Yeah, I think first off, just in terms of the game, the matchup against Notre Dame, like this showed that, this is not going to be an easy win. After Notre Dame lost at home to Stanford, I was certainly thinking, actually this should be a pretty manageable game. Not anymore. Like after what Notre Dame threw down tonight against Clemson.
However, Matt, real quick, did you think I just thought Clemson looked awful.
Yes.
Like I was not impressed. It wasn't that I thought Drew Pine turned into Superman. Drew Pine looked every bit of Drew Pine that we're used to laughing about.
They had him 14 points. And I bailed after that. They had him those 14 points. And right there, they looked just like then the wheels came off the wagon, I think.
I think that they just punched Clemson in the mouth, and Clemson, as they play patty cake with Wake Forest and Eastern Carolina and Northern Regional Appalachian State. I love App State. I'm being a smart ass. I really do love App State. Those types of teams, they were stunned, I think. And I thought that as a result, they never got into it. And all of a sudden now it's 21-28, you're down and you don't know how to come back from that because you never do that in the ACC.
Well, I mean, let's just in terms of the ingredients.
Clemson fans are going to be so mad at me. I'm sorry, Clemson. I do respect you.
Just in terms of the ingredients of the Notre Dame win tonight, I mean, you get a blocked punt for a touchdown right off the bat. So like that, the offense didn't have to do anything, and Notre Dame was still able to get a lead. And then later in the game, Notre Dame got an interception in the Clemson red zone. So technically, the offense scored that second touchdown, but essentially it was a defensive touchdown. And then Notre Dame gets a pick six. So, the defense and special teams were basically scoring the touchdowns for Notre Dame. And the offense really didn't have to do much. So like that's why I still think USC has an advantage, that like Drew Pine is not capable, I don't think, of being Jack Plummer tonight against Cal. I don't. I think USC can load the tackle box and try to stop the run and isn't going to pay too much of a price. Now, Michael Mayer, you could be like the Dalton Kincaid,
on steroid
passing game, but Notre Dame does not have a speed threat. Notre Dame does not have a speedster to work in tandem with Mayer in terms of stretching USC's secondary. So I still like the matchup overall, especially if you get Eric Gentry and Raylan Goforth back on the defense. But in terms of like the significance of the Notre Dame win, in addition to, of course, giving Clemson a loss and thereby opening the playoff path, it makes that game a big deal. Tony, you alluded to it a little bit, but like USC needed a big national audience for that game. And if Notre Dame had limped in at 6-5, that game would not have been like a top tier draw on November 26th with the other big games that are going on late in the season. But now if you have Notre Dame at 8-3, assuming Notre Dame wins its next two games against Boston College and Navy, which is very likely, Notre Dame is going to be a top 25 team, and you're going to get more of the buzz for that game. And it goes to the larger point that, USC and Notre Dame both want the other to be good. They don't want the other to be great because you want to be better than the other one, but you want them to be good so that game always carries a certain degree of heft, a certain degree of stature. And so Notre Dame beating Syracuse, now beating Clemson, definitely achieves that. And it also plays into Caleb Williams' Heisman candidacy. You're going to have a lot more attention there. Notre Dame's built up its reputation, built up its respect. So if Caleb Williams brings the blowtorch to Marcus Freeman's defense, and given what we've seen with C.J. Stroud struggling today, Hendon Hooker struggling today, Max Duggan of TCU won, but he struggled today. This is a wide open Heisman race at the moment. And so, Carson Palmer won the 2002 Heisman Trophy because he brought the hammer to Notre Dame in a spotlight primetime game in Los Angeles. The table is going to be similarly set for Caleb Williams. So that's because Notre Dame won this game against Clemson. It's creating that platform for USC to derive more benefits if it can win that game against Notre Dame.
That's a great point. I still remember that Notre Dame game. He really lit up that score. And I think that Caleb is going to have those numbers rolling up. He's been doing it the last 3 weeks. He's doing it against Colorado. And we're joking about the what we're going to do against UCLA's defense. I think it sets up really nicely if he can put it all together in that game. It'd be nice to get his two guys. Hey, so what do you think? That leads me to this. So eventually, and hopefully before UCLA, we're going to get Addison and Williams back in the receiving corps. But what do you think about Michael Jackson III's emergence in this game? He flashed a little bit on that one little on the play at the end of the game. Was that Arizona?
The Utah. The Utah. He caught that screen pass and he took it
was
to the
Utah.
house.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Correct.
And he also made some plays against Arizona. So like he has steadily improved and had more of a role the past few weeks. This is the blessing. I mean, you didn't want Jordan Addison and Mario Williams to be out, but like the other USC receivers, and particularly tonight, Michael Jackson was that guy. Last week it was Taj Washington and Kyle Ford. Actually, Taj Washington each of the last 2 weeks, but Kyle Ford more last week, Michael Jackson more this week. Like they are really seizing this moment. And, when you get to that UCLA game, it gives Lincoln Riley more tools in the toolbox to throw at the Bruins, whose defense is very wobbly. I think just the importance of Michael Jackson stepping up is just, it gives USC that many more weapons. But more than that, it's not just having the weapons, it's having proven weapons. Because obviously if you had surveyed the USC offense a few weeks ago, you obviously would have seen a very productive offense. But did you know that Taj Washington and Kyle Ford and Michael Jackson could play at this level? Not quite. Now you do. And so that's a great way to lead into the UCLA game for him.
And I was at the game. I caught a part of it. But Riley comes out and they do a quick interview with him. I could have sworn he referenced drops. I'm not sure if that was on the radio broadcast or the TV broadcast. He made a comment. And early on, so you just brought up the fact that Kyle Ford had that amazing game last week. But he got, I don't know if he targeted once or not many more than that. And he had a catchable ball. It would have been a tough contested catch, but you would think a big dude like that comes down with that ball. I didn't get to see the replay of it because it was live for me. But and then it seemed like they went away from him. And we're not seeing. I didn't see Brandon Rice on the field very often in that game. We saw Bynum and we saw we saw some other people kind of playing that role. I think. Am I reading into it, or do you think this is going on?
Well, Brendan Rice has had problems with the dropsies this season.
Yeah.
And so I would not be surprised. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if like local media ask Lincoln Riley about this, but I would not be surprised if Riley is just, quietly moving his poker chips around and saying, you know what, Taj Washington and Michael Jackson, they don't drop passes. I'm going to lean on them a little bit more than Brendan Rice, and also Terrell Bynum, who he dropped a pass in this game. I think that these last 2 weeks have achieved a certain degree of clarity in terms of who are the number 3 and number 4 receivers after Addison's number 1 and Mario Williams number 2.
Yeah, I like that. Well, Taj has only been here 66. He was here. He was a transfer last year from Memphis, Matt. I think he was a transfer from Memphis.
Yep.
So he's only been here 1 year, but he came out at the beginning of the season, man, like, whoa, we were trying to figure out. I thought that Gary Bryant Jr., GB1 was going to be the guy. I thought he was going to be just thrust into that role. And he was, Taj just played so well. I think that Gary Bryant saw the writing and said, I'm going to redshirt and I'm going to transfer in the offseason. So he's only been here 1 season.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's now Taj Washington is a transfer, but also he is a holdover from last year's Clay Helton season. And so when we talk about, how Lincoln Riley develops talent, obviously he's relied a lot on transfers. And so again, technically Taj Washington is a transfer, but he is also a holdover. So like Lincoln Riley has been able to coach some of the holdovers, the players that he retained from 2021. That is part of the larger evaluation of Riley's performance this season, and it's good to make that particular distinction.
Hey Ralph, even if the weather was like it was at the Horseshoe, it's still going to be higher than the 17-13 game. Don't worry. That's literally the safest bet in Vegas. Is that
even if you think, Ralph, that the offenses are overestimated, the defenses aren't particularly good. It's like it's not just what the offenses are going to do, it's what the defenses are not going to do.
Hey guys, we've got RTR Mooley is back. How you doing? Can you hear us now?
Oh, I hear y'all. Yeah, sorry I didn't hear y'all earlier, but
Oh, no worries. Welcome back. We got you here with Matt Zemek from Trojan Wire.
okay. So honestly, I'm not really like a big USC fan or anything, but I have been very interested in the Pac-12 and stuff because I'm going to bring up this question. I don't know if it's been brought up already, but there's been some speculations about maybe a one loss at this point, most likely a one loss like Michigan or Ohio State team getting in the playoffs before like a Pac-12 team. And personally, I feel like that's not going to happen. I believe that the committee has shown that it's respected the top four teams of the Pac-12 by putting all of them in the top 15. And I just want to hear what you guys think about that and how like I feel like just based on having 3 one-loss teams at this point, Pac-12 is pretty guaranteed, not guaranteed obviously, but has pretty good chances to make the playoffs this year. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
You want to hear Matt's because he's going to be more salient than me, but I'm going to throw mine really fast.
I'll give you mine fast after.
I'm thinking that let's look at USC. If USC runs the table, has an impressive win, and it's got to be an impressive win against UCLA and Notre Dame, and then we're to beat Oregon, let's say, by double digits, I think they're in. If UCLA, same kind of scenario, beats USC handily, goes on and beats Oregon by double digits, I think they're in. I don't think, unfortunately, even with the what happened today with the Volunteers and George, all that, I still think that stain is something that they're not going to let go of. That's my take.
So I'll tell you one of the things that I think the committee has done a little more Machiavellian than people think. A lot of like conference partisans are really looking at the committee rankings and they're like really like stroking themselves to them in excitement about being like, oh, they want all of our teams. And I think what they've really done for most of these conferences is set each of the conferences up to fix the problems themselves. So we started to see that today in the SEC. We got Alabama kind of knocked out of things. LSU, yeah, they'll respect them, but like they're not going to be a serious. I don't think they're really going to be a serious contender because I think they're also going to get knocked out by Georgia. So they know that these things will start to take care of themselves. And in the Pac-12, I don't think we're going to, you're going to see the teams start to take care of themselves as well. And same with the Big Ten with, Michigan, Ohio State. One of them is going to win. I have an opinion as to which one it is, but we'll see what happens. And then, they'll have to play in a Big Ten championship game and they'll be a Big Ten champion. So I think they've set themselves up to make it easier than we think. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think just in terms of, looking at the dynamics of that Michigan-Ohio State race in the Big Ten, I think, Rick and also Tim mentioned earlier that, the Big Ten is just a 2-team league this year. We saw Illinois take it on the chin against Michigan State at home. Illinois was a 16-point favorite, lost to a not very good Michigan State team. The Big Ten West is atrocious. None of the teams have really distinguished themselves. I mean, Illinois was that team heading into today, but that's a real black eye kind of loss. And Illinois does have to go to Michigan later this season. So that's an almost certain loss. In a reasonably good year and in a reasonably favorable scenario for the Big Ten, what would you have? You would have Penn State looking like a very threatening team. You'd have a 10-win Wisconsin team. You'd have a 9-win Iowa. You'd have like 4 or 5 really good teams, or at least you could make a subdivision, 3 really good teams, and then Ohio State and Michigan at the very top. But this year, it's just Ohio State and Michigan. And so given the weakness of the rest of the Big Ten, teams 3 through 12, Penn State lost to got blown out by Michigan and lost to Ohio State at home. You can't. It's really hard to assign a lot of value to beating the third, fourth, fifth best teams in the Big Ten. So, like in other years, let's say 2016, when you had Ohio State making the playoff, and then you had Penn State winning the Big Ten but not making the playoff. But Penn State was right there with Washington for that number 4 seed. Came in at 5th, just behind the Huskies. In a lot of years, the Big Ten will have 2 legitimate playoff contenders, but with the weakness in the conference, the idea that you're going to have Ohio State and Michigan both being 11-0 heading into the game in late November, and that the loser can somehow get in, I just don't see that happening. And it's because the Big Ten is weak in teams 3 through 5, 3 through 6. I just don't think the dynamic there is favorable for the Big Ten. And of course, let's compare the Ohio State Michigan dynamic to what you have in the SEC. In the SEC, it's looking like Georgia's going to win the conference championship, but Tennessee's going to be there at 11-1 with the big win over Alabama, with the blowout win over LSU, which now looks even better. So Tennessee actually has a couple of wins that look really impressive. So when you're comparing, let's say, hypothetically, 11-1 Tennessee to 11-1 Michigan or 11-1 Ohio State, I don't think it's really that big of a difference. If you're comparing 11-1 Tennessee to the Big Ten runner-up, probably with an 11-1 record, like Tennessee obviously has the better resume. So I think we're looking at a situation where the SEC is going to get Georgia and Tennessee in, 2 teams. The Big Ten gets its champion, and then it's going to be the jostling among, if Clemson finishes 12-1, if the Pac-12 champion finishes 12-1, and what TCU does in the Big 12. If they all finish 12-1, I think the Pac-12 champion has the best resume, because if USC does go 12-1, let's look at USC individually. If USC does go 12-1, that means USC will have beaten UCLA, a good Notre Dame team, which has built its stock up with these past 2 weeks over Syracuse and Clemson, and then probably Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. So if USC goes 12-1, like USC doesn't have those big high-end wins right now, but if it goes 12-1, it will have 2 very big high-end wins, and then Notre Dame as a solid, well above average win. That would be better than what a 12-1 TCU or a 12-1 Clemson would bring to the table. So, like the outlook for the Pac-12 has improved markedly over the past week with the specific dominoes that have fallen. Clemson most of all. Like Clemson needed to be cleared out of the way. And because the ACC is so weak, it didn't seem that Clemson was likely to lose another conference game. So it stepped outside the conference, and Notre Dame brought the hammer. So that was very providential. And now that that's happened, like you can see the path. The thing that all USC fans should worry about.
Can we just pause for one more minute and say Stanford and Marshall whipped them at home? Okay, sorry, I'm done.
Absolutely, that Stanford game is going to be the most confounding result of the whole season. In many ways, you could certainly make that argument. But anyway, like the thing that USC fans should be worried about is not what's the committee going to decide. The thing that USC fans should be worried about is just, can we actually get the job done against our 2 big rivals in November?
Yeah, those, and I'm always called I'm the negative one, or I have a loser mentality. But the people that think that we're just going to, after watching us play, like granted we've been hurt, but thinking that we're just going to walk into the Rose Bowl and win that one, and just we're obviously going to beat Notre Dame, and then we're going to walk off and beat Oregon. People need to just slow down a little bit. I mean, I'm there too. We're fans, right? We get excited. That's what we do. That's the whole purpose of being a fan, right? But I think people need to slow it down. But back to Crazyville, we would also have the better win, because obviously Notre Dame handled
Crazyville's a happy place.
It is a happy place.
Happy place.
And if USC were to win, even squeak it out with a 1-point victory, I know it's head to head, and that doesn't really, it doesn't always be, but it is something. that they had that also to argue as well against Clemson.
Absolutely. There's one other thing to mention about USC's postseason, and this is not about the playoffs, but it's about another important goal, and that is a New Year's Six Bowl. And for those unfamiliar, you might be aware that, if in terms of having preferred status for a New Year's Six bowl game as an at-large team, you need to be in the top 12 of the college football playoff rankings after the season is done. And so, not only did Clemson's loss and Alabama's loss at the, above USC in the rankings matter, but also like the Illinois loss and the other losses of teams ranked in, from like number 10 to number 20, those losses could become significant. We don't know yet how significant those losses are going to be, but they do at least increase the amount of leverage that USC has for the New Year's Six, because if teams in like that 13 through 18 or 13 through 20 range are losing, that pushes them down even more in the rankings. So it means that even if they win their last few games, they're not going to get up into that top 12, which gets the New Year's Six at-large slot, which is the Cotton Bowl. That is where the at-large spot without a conference tie-in is going to go. So with those other losses in the top 25 this week, and you're going to have more of them over the next 3 weeks, USC's Cotton Bowl odds, that's if the Trojans, win, get to 10 wins, but then lose the or get to 10 or 11 wins and then lose the Pac-12 championship game to finish at 11-2. If an 11-2 USC a couple of weeks ago was probably still ticketed for the Alamo Bowl, but after a lot of these losses in the 10 to 20 range, I'm not talking about Clemson, Bama, but in the 10 to 20 range, USC's Cotton Bowl odds went up significantly this weekend, and we'll see if USC gets more of those kinds of losses the next 3 weeks. That is also something.
And I think exposing some of the Make-A-Wish kids in the Big 12 has helped a lot too.
Absolutely, no question.
The
deck is getting cleared.
I don't mean to disrespect the Riley family, but there's one more Make-A-Wish kid in the Big 12 that I think is going to find themselves cleared out of contention.
Well, and Tony,
rather than later.
And I'm going to write about this at Trojans Wire in the coming days, because that's obviously a thing that readers are going to flock to. But Steve Sarkisian could help USC in the playoff chase.
Good.
He's going up against TCU.
Well, just in overall chase, he can help a lot of teams by knocking them out, because I love what Sonny Dykes has done there. I think Sonny Dykes is a great coach. I have a lot of friends from TCU. I think TCU is a great place, but they are not in the league with Georgia and Tennessee and Oregon and Alabama and those teams. They've had a wonderful run, and like a roulette run that just keeps hitting on red. It's time for it to hit on black, and it's gonna. Yeah.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt real quick?
Of course.
I definitely understand what you're saying, but I feel like if circumstances play out, obviously if all teams win out, then TCU would be out with one loss. But I think TCU could maybe spare a loss and still get a Big 12 championship. I think the problem with the Big 12, there's no necessarily any like bad teams. I mean, Iowa State and West Virginia aren't good at all. So yeah, those. But like, there's there's a lot of just pretty nice teams. And the thing is, there's so much parity and inconsistency. But from what I watched, personally, I find Big 12 the most entertaining conference. Every week, you don't know what's going to happen. And yes, TCU has had several weekends where they've had to come back from behind wins. Where it's like, okay, I like how they're able to come back from behind, but are they going to keep doing this? That being so, like you said, if they get a loss though, I'm pretty sure they'll still fall behind, because USC would have to come and beat UCLA and Oregon, because I can also come out and say I think the committee is going to be even higher. Probably Oregon could be like a top 5 team. Maybe not fall behind Tennessee. But Oregon's the team to beat right now in the Pac-12. They're the team that people are talking about. They're dominating. So if USC can come out and pull that win off, no doubt they would be in there.
So there's something needs to be said about TCU since we got onto the subject. If I don't know if anyone watching here at the Voice of College Football has been following TCU's season very closely, but each week a significant player on the opposing team gets injured. I mean, like TCU has played like a game in which the opposing team's quarterback has been injured and knocked out of the game several times. Like Dylan Gabriel of Oklahoma, he got knocked out against TCU. Today, Donovan Smith of Texas Tech, he got knocked out of the game. Texas Tech was shuffling quarterbacks. Kansas State took a 28-10 lead over TCU. Adrian Martinez, the starter, and backup Will Howard got knocked out of the game. It has been crazy to see how TCU's opponents, one by one, it's just like a series of dominoes toppling. The amount of in-game luck, and it's not to say that TCU is a fluke, but TCU has certainly, as Tony said, always getting the right color on the roulette wheel, or like hitting at 17 and getting blackjack. It's just been that kind of magic carpet ride for TCU, and it does mean that that kind of luck is bound to run out at some point.
And if it doesn't, by all means, Merry Christmas. You can win the national championship and be the worst national champion in history, but you'll be the national champion.
National champions, yeah.
And I mean, it's just
we're banking on Texas being that team 66. And let me go back really quick because I put this up for a reason. Okay, so I don't know if 66 is a Trojan fan or this is an amazingly clever troll, but any Trojan fan, when they see this, they should get a shiver right up the back of their back.
Tim, I'm right now being so triggered. I'm about to smash my screen. I don't even want to think about that.
I don't know if we're going to have the team come out and do the junkyard dog again, but
that's the little Catwoman routine to start the game. Like,
it's too soon. 66, it's too soon. That right there is too soon.
And you know what? It will never be not too soon to talk about us playing Alabama at Jerry World. In fact, I think if that happens, we'll just be like, we're not going.
Well, I don't think SC wants to play any bowl game postseason in Texas at all, because that's where we're a good bowl team. We're not a good Texas bowl team. Because things happen in Texas. I'm good with not going to Texas for bowls at all, period. To be honest with you.
That's a safe bet. That's a very safe bet.
Oh, and
hey guys, we still have a little bit more time. I'm gonna put the link in the chat one more time. If you guys are wanting to call in the show, we'd love to have you. Let me put it one more time. No, go by all means. Go ahead. I'm giving folks a couple minutes heads up, so no, we're not in an immediate rush.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just wanted to say one thing is because you mentioned Tennessee possibly being before Michigan and Ohio State one-loss team, and I definitely understand the Big Ten has been on the down this year. It has not been nearly as good, but there's still at least some talent, and there's still at least something to say considering how both OSU and Michigan play.
Yeah. I think real quick, I don't think anybody's taking anything away from the top two of the Big Ten.
And one loss to either of those teams is in. Those we all agree. One loss, of either one of those teams is, unless it's an embarrassing loss somehow, they're in. I think to me that's a given. The Big Ten champs is going to be in the playoffs. Just think money alone, they deserve to be there. But just the money alone,
will be in. Yes.
The Big Ten champion is in.
I'm just saying the loser of the Ohio State Michigan
unless it's
game,
Iowa.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying the loser of the Michigan Ohio State game, I will put them in before Tennessee only because of the way Tennessee lost to Georgia. Like if Ohio State and Michigan was a close game, I think they would get in.
If that game's a 35-34 classic, or a game, like remember the 2006 game that was 42-39 epic game. Bo Schembechler died 24 hours before that game. Yeah, if it's like 2006, all right, we can revisit the conversation. But if one team is clearly miles better than the other, it's a decisive game. The loser, it's really hard to see a path.
But I think that a lot of that comes down to one of the big things, and And it's why, like, this time of year, because, like, I love our voice college football chats are sometimes awesome, but sometimes I have to turn them off because people are just, like, so gut-wrenchingly hand-wringing over, like, well, if this and if that and if that and if this and oh my God, it will. And it's like, guys, that stuff will play itself out. And so I think, yeah, Matt's right. You know, we're going to see what it all depends on. But yeah, you're right. I don't think nobody's bagging on the Big Ten has two amazing teams. One from my homeland and one that my grandpa went to. So yay us. But the other 12, including the one that both my parents went to, is a little bit rough this year. In fact, my Big Ten friends were joking. They're like, we have 4 top 10 teams: Michigan, Ohio State, USC, and UCLA. The Big Ten is proud of its 4 top 10 teams. And if Mike Mothershed shows up again, I think we should just join the Big Ten right that day.
Oh, the Michael Mothershed reference brings to mind a wisecrack that I saw at the very beginning of this long day, and that is the Pac-12 refs don't know how to count to 12 ever since USC and UCLA left.
Yeah, they max out at 10. Oh, it's ridiculous. Well, I had a tweet up today. I finally got so annoyed with the Pac-12 refs last night. I actually put up
brutal in Seattle. Brutal.
Well, so I actually put up the full. I asked John Wilner and John Canzano. I put up all the pictures, the full Pac-12 chain of command from Mike Mothershed to Dr. Couchy, and I put them all because they have us all burning in hell. And Dr. Couchy has the fire extinguisher, and the question is, where does the fire stop?
Yep.
Because she can fix it with a phone call. And I'll be honest, and I hate to say this because I don't like to tell other people what to do with their staff, but as they like to say in the business world, it requires an HR solution. I think that's the phrase, right? I mean, Elon Musk should fix it on Twitter. Pac-12 refs, check your email at 9 a.m.
Well, it would require 2 HR moves because where are they going to find? I think the problem with the Pac-12 is I think they know they have a problem, Tony, is just where are they going to grab these officials? I get you. How can they find anyone worse? I'm with you. Or I'm right there with you. But I mean, I don't think that they're not looking. It's just I just don't think they can pull together anybody that's competent.
Well, but remember, the guy that's in charge of the Pac-12 officials, and I try not to dox, other than Mothershed because he's a character, I try not to dox names on this stuff. But the guy that's in charge of the Pac-12 officials, they've actually written a lot of articles. He's actually not qualified for that job. Like, he does not meet the basic qualifications that every other conference has for their head of officials. He is genuinely unqualified for that job, and that is why we see that. Then his boss, and I will say his name was very public, Merton Hanks, who's the head of football, has completely failed. Merton Hanks has failed to manage his people. Merton, you are a manager. You are a leader. You have a job to do. You don't do that job.
Yep.
That is a problem. And then Jamie Zanovich, who's the deputy boss, he's Merton's boss. You have failed, Jamie, to manage your failed employee. Jamie, you need to manage your employee who's not managing his employees. And then it goes to Kliakoff, and then it goes to Dr. Couchy. And Dr. Couchy, you need to step in and order the fixing. I mean, Dr. Couchy doesn't watch this show, obviously, but UW fans, she's yours. UW, you have the power to fix this. Your president can fix Pac-12 officiating. All right, I'll get off my soapbox.
What do we say about head coaches? One of their key jobs is they're supposed to coach their assistant coaches. Coaching the coaches. That's one of the things that a head coach, that a person in like a CEO, top of the pyramid type leadership position and structure has to do. Are you providing that quality control, making sure that when the assistants that you've hired, are they doing their jobs properly? Are they continuing to provide your teaching and extend your values, your mission, your modus operandi down through the flow chart in an organization? So that's what Hanks and Kliakoff and the other higher placed officials in the Pac-12 administrators that is their job. They're supposed to be coaching the supervisors who are training the refs to, teach them and give them, the components of how to do their job well in terms of administration, in terms of understanding the rules, in terms of, proper procedure. These things are obviously not being taught well, because if they were, you don't get these debacles that you see each and every week, in which it's not just getting calls wrong, but it's not having any procedure.
Yeah, this isn't like it just happened. It's been like this for a decade.
Yes.
And these people were brought in to clean it up 5 years ago.
Yep.
So just like Scott Frost only had 5 years, the Pac-12's head of officiating, who's had 5 years to clean it up, is got plenty of time to get it done.
That's right.
So anyway, hey, we got Austin Williams. Austin, first of all, we know Austin is from Louisville. Congratulations. You guys looked good beating JMU today. And welcome to the show. You're here with Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, gentlemen. I just got a couple quick things I'd like to ask. Is it worrisome for the USC fans and you guys here on the show that USC is coming down to the wire with teams like Cal and Arizona who you all are better than? Is that like worrisome at all to you? Because you should be beating these teams by big margins.
Yes,
it is worrisome. But remember, we're missing key parts. I was talking to my dad. We have a great receiver room, but you don't just replace Jordan Addison and Mario Williams. We have, I do think we have some good players, some great players. Tui Pelotu is still awesome, on the line. And we have Brandon Peely had a great play in the hole where he just reached out and grabbed and dragged a guy that grabbed one arm. We have some players, but we're missing the heart and soul. We're missing the quarterback, the defense, and our two Mike linebackers. And you can see that hole right now. So are we worried? Am I worried? Yes. Would I like to see how we're going to look? I wish we would have had 2 or 3 more games leading into these big games with all those pieces in place. I think that we're a totally different game with those 4 players alone.
Yeah, Austin, just echoing what I said earlier when you weren't here, just to kind of provide a very short, condensed version of what I said earlier here at the Voice of College Football. It's just that it seems as though there's a little bit of mental fatigue, especially in the secondary, where you're really seeing some regression, and that, the defense really carried well its share of the workload in the first half of the season, winning the game against Oregon State, winning the game against Washington State, holding the Cougars to 14 points in that particular game in week 6. And it just seems as though now later in the season, and this is also happening when USC gets a lead, like USC led Arizona 31-16, that became 31-29 pretty quickly. USC led 34-14 here in this game, turned into 34-27 very quickly. It just seems as though like the strain of the season is catching up with guys, and Alex Grinch's coaching is not really penetrating. It's not piercing through that mental fatigue. Grinch, in many ways, it's partly scheme. Tim alluded to the point that, Grinch is playing the run and he's leaving the corners out on an island. There's something to consider in terms of tweaking that particular schematic dimension of all of this. But I think the biggest thing, Austin, for Alex Grinch is he needs to find a way to mentally refresh his players, especially in the secondary, to kind of impress upon them that, hey, this, obviously we have some injuries, we're undermanned on defense, but guys, you can't treat this as a burden. You can't treat this as, something that's weighing you down, something that's making you unsure about yourselves, something that's making you question yourselves. You need to attack this opportunity. Like, this is an opportunity. This is a chance to make a great statement for USC. It's a chance to, create defining plays that elevate this season. Like, he has to find an angle that turns what feels like a burden right now for the guys in the secondary into an opportunity. That's really one of the central elements of coaching in terms of framing the tasks, the mundane tasks that you have to replicate as an athlete, time and time again, turning it into something to pursue, turning it into something you can attack rather than, oh, we have all this pressure. We have so much to lose. All this could be taken away from us. The guys in the secondary seem to be playing with a burden, and Alex Grinch needs to turn that from a burden into something that, these guys in the secondary can really get after.
Austin, what's your next question?
I don't know if USC's offensive line tonight, what'd y'all think of their performance? Because Cal brought the pressure tonight, and they made Caleb Williams run a lot around back there. I don't know what y'all thought of the O-line performance. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I haven't seen it from when I watched the game from where I was at. It looked solid. I didn't have any major issues with the O-line. Again, I'm going to rewatch the game and take a closer look at it. But just looking at from that perspective, watching the line, I don't think the line was the issue.
Yeah, one big note, Austin, is that Mason Murphy, he got kicked over to right tackle last week against Arizona when Andrew Voorhees was out. He had to play over at right tackle. Bobby Haskins was at left tackle against Arizona, but then Haskins got hurt against Arizona. So tonight you had Mason Murphy going from right tackle over to left tackle, and that's Caleb Williams' blind side. You did not see Caleb Williams taking blindside hits. And if you remember the Fresno State game in week 3, that was a game in which Mason Murphy was briefly thrown in at left tackle when Bobby Haskins suffered a modest injury. Haskins came back into the game, wasn't 100%, but they took him out for a little bit, and they threw Mason Murphy into the fire at left tackle against Fresno State. It was a disaster. Williams got sacked. He was very skittish, in that little pocket of time in the second quarter against Fresno State. So compare that to where we are now and where we were tonight with the Cal game. Mason Murphy really did hold.
Oh, did we lose Matt?
Yeah, I think we did.
I think Matt froze. Austin, anything else?
Just congratulations on the win. And the wide receivers that stepped up today. Other than that, good job on the win, and thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for calling in. Always glad to have you. And most importantly, nice job to the Cards.
Yeah.
You guys are off to a bowl.
Good win, Austin.
I think, are they bowl eligible now, or do they have one more? I forget, but they're going to go to a bowl. And that's awesome. All right. Well, I don't know if Matt's coming back or not, but I think we're actually at about at time.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate what Matt was saying. I mean, it is awesome to see Mason Murphy, and Mason Murphy's a name that I've heard Riley talk about quite a bit. And just like we were talking about with the receiver room, you're seeing some guys on the offensive line step up for some of these injuries. I wanted to ask Matt about what's going on with Cortland Ford.
That's a really good question.
That would be an interesting question. I mean, again, injuries is not like it's a well-guarded secret, but they were high on Cortland Ford, and so was I. And I know he's been dinged up, but I'm just wondering what the situation is. But anyway, I like that point he made about Mason Murphy stepping up.
Yeah, no, very good point. Alex, anything else as we get ready to wrap up here? Any final thoughts?
So we've gone Pac-12 way after dark, but one thing I wanted
more fun that way.
One thing I wanted to mention. So tonight, this is maybe our last visit to the Coliseum for a while.
Well, and I was actually,
yeah.
Alex, not to interrupt, but something I was talking to my brother about this. Cal's history at the Coliseum goes back to the day when the Coliseum opened.
We opened it up, yeah.
Yeah, and Cal played USC or UCLA. Cal used to come to the Coliseum every year, and there is just such history to Cal in the Coliseum that I thought it had a lot of kind of spooky craziness with that. Kind of sad, actually.
Well, and just with what's going on, and I'm sure we'll like there'll be some realignment stuff figured out, with time. But there are certain teams that I hate to lose to, certain teams I love to play. I love playing SC, and after next year, not sure, or maybe some things will unfold that we don't expect, but uh, those trips to the Coliseum, and I've been in the Coliseum a few times. I was there during the Pete Carroll years, and man, those trips were wild. Like the atmosphere at those games were incredible. Of course, we didn't win any of those, but
there's some good games.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep it going if there are arrangements made. But SC is a team that I love to see us play every year, and after next year, or I don't know, again, things may figure themselves up, but who knows? But tonight was fun, and I know usually it doesn't pan out for us the way we want to, but these are the games that this is why I love college football. You never expect these things to happen, like tonight, what you saw. I hope we can keep this going. So that's really all I have right now.
And really quick before you go, Alex, on that, your visit, I'm sure you're alluding probably to the 2004 Cal USC game, which to this day is the second I have been to a lot of USC games. To this day, that fourth quarter, the end of that game, was the loudest I've heard the Coliseum, except for 1996 versus Notre Dame in overtime. That atmosphere in that game with all the players and all the stuff and all that was on the line for USC, that's one memory. That's one magical moment, and Cal was a big part of it that I will never forget the rest of my life. It was just amazing.
And I hope that we find a way to keep playing Cal, because Cal is USC's oldest rival, and Cal is how we got our name, the Trojans. So I hope we can find a way to keep that going somehow.
Even if Tony's afraid of your mascot.
Well, I'm just afraid
our mascot. Our mascot is a little offbeat. Let's put it that way.
But he's fitting. He's Oski. He's like Mr. Met. He just is.
He's just damn peculiar, and I have some stories about that I won't get into right now. But
tell us offline sometime.
Yeah,
we want to hear them.
But I, and just with realignment for a minute, I think we may be okay, but again, that's to be determined. But yeah, and and again with SC, they're as good as I thought they were. Like last year, for SC to go 4-8 to me was like absurd. That because SC to me, you just need to recruit 4 or 5 high schools in SoCal, get a good coaching staff, and you're playoff contenders. SC is what they are right now. Maybe you guys get to the playoff, and maybe it doesn't turn out right, but you guys are almost there. So, and with the impending move, again, hopefully we can figure it out. But yeah, I want to keep this going. Like I love playing SC, and so tonight was fun, and hopefully we have more of this going forward.
Thanks for calling in, Alex.
Yep.
Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, and good luck to the Bears. Good luck in the big game.
Well, if we play like we did today, maybe the next 3 games we might be all right. But Matt, so we talked about Stanford for a minute earlier on the, apparently, let's say there's a bit of revolt down in Palo Alto. Stanford hates fun. Look it up on Reddit. It's hilarious. Now there's like students are essentially feuding with the administration right now. It's crazy stuff, but we have that coming up. But if we play like we did tonight, maybe we have a shot at maybe sneaking into a bowl. But after tonight, though, it's nice to finally have something to like. I'm looking forward to next week. I haven't said that in a while, but at least there's that. So
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it
later. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Right. We'll see you. Go Bears.
Bears.
Tim, any final thoughts for the game?
No, I mean that just what the game itself. No, I think I'll have a better feel for it after I rewatch the game. Yeah, it's just a different vibe when I'm watching it as I'm here, writing down notes and doing stuff as opposed to being in the game with my dad. But we escaped, like you said, 8-1. It's much better than I thought we'd be at this point. There's obviously things to clean up. We'll see how getting those guys back and healthy will help us. I think that the backups getting playing time, even though we can't, I thought it'd be a game we could blow out some teams and get some guys some minutes. It's probably better they're getting meaningful minutes, stepping up for guys that are injured. So that's going to pay dividends, if not later this year, next year. And just that conversation with Alex just got me going again. There's nothing against the Big Ten and schools like Indiana, and Purdue, but I don't really have much of a history with those schools. And when we move to the Big Ten, I'm not going to miss the Pac-12. I'm not, as a Pac-12, the way it's been run recently. Definitely not the referees. But I will miss the teams. I will miss the fans like Alex, like Connor, and all the Pac-12 fans. It's gonna be hard to get my head around, but that's life. And I'm with Alex. Maybe down the road, when things shake out, that Cal will be a part of that as well. But thanks for everyone. There's really crazy numbers still, even with being the middle of the night. And I know Tony wants to go to bed because it's 3 hours later for him. But thank you all for showing up. Great win and fight on.
Thanks. First of all, I want to thank you guys who've been with us tonight. Thanks to everybody who called in. Thanks to everybody who kept the chat lively and feisty tonight. We really appreciate it. And most importantly, thank you to Mark Rogers and the voice of college football community who let us all be here. I want to kind of echo what Alex and Tim were saying. There's something really special about tonight's game. And while I wish we would have won by more, I think it's especially fitting. The history of the University of California is the story of the state of California. The idea of American Manifest Destiny was written by Bishop George Berkeley, who wrote, "Westward the course of empire takes its way." And as they stood on the vista of the land they bought for the College of California, looking out over the San Francisco Bay and the islands where the bridge would someday be, and they thought about that, they decided that they would name the town around their university after him, and that's where it got the name Berkeley. And USC is really the story of Southern California, the dreams and the ideas and the chutzpah that went into putting this tiny one little clapboard white building and calling it in the middle of a dirty mustard field and calling it the University of Southern California was ridiculous at the time. And out of that, grew the school and grew LA. And those two institutions and the universities and the football teams that represent them in so many ways represented the state of California, Northern California, and Southern California together. And so if tonight was the last time for a while that Cal comes to USC, you know what? Good thing it was a great game, because the rich history of these two awesome schools deserves a good game. So on that note, guys, go Bears and fight on, Trojans. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Be safe. We'll see you next week. Fight on.